Douluo, my Sharingan isn't very proper. Hello again, dear adventurers of the multiverse. Thanks for joining us once more on this epic journey. Remember, this story is pure science fiction from our wild imagination. So don't go trying to summon dragons in your backyard. The rights of this amazing novel belong entirely to its original author. We are only the narrators. Do you want more adventures? Show some love to our YouTube channel with a subscription and a like. And if you want exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting for you with open arms. Chapter 629 Getting hit could be a death sentence. In the bathroom, Jiangzu's face was flushed, and her movements were trembling slightly. Yichu had changed the warm water to cold water at some point. But even the icy water couldn't extinguish the burning sensation on Jiangzu's face and body. Yichu raised his hand to support himself against the wall, lowered his head, and closed his eyes. The cold water seemed to have warmed up considerably without him noticing. Jiangzu bit her red lips, her pink eyes slightly red. Her heart was pounding, and her breathing was erratic. She gently wiped Yichu's back with a towel, her fingertips occasionally brushing against his skin. Jiangzu, where do you want to go today? Yichu asked softly to ease the awkwardness. I haven't decided yet. Jiangzu stiffened her neck. Things she had fantasized about countless times now made her blush and her mind race. She was incoherent. All right. Then tell me after your morning cultivation. Yichu nodded slightly, saying nothing more. Jiangzu nodded. Only the soft sound of running water remained in the bathroom. Jiangzu carefully wiped Yichu down, doing everything she could. Half an hour later, the soft hand that had been sliding on his back was removed. Yichu slowly exhaled a long breath. Yichu? PFFT, Jiangzu gritted her teeth and remained silent for a long time, then suddenly hugged Yichu from behind. Before Yichu could fully relax, a warm, soft, and damp body pressed against his back. Yichu was startled and turned to look behind him. Jiangzu rested her head on Yichu's back, her arms wrapped around his waist. This was the first time she had been so close to Yichu. The fragrance emanating from her body was similar to Xiaolan's, yet somewhat different. The heat emanating from Yichu made her even more dizzy. The beads on her forehead were indistinguishable between water droplets and sweat. Yichu. I'll go out first. Her soft voice carried a hint of coquettishness as Jiangzu clenched her delicate fists. She didn't even dare touch the person she had longed for but could never reach. Suddenly. Jiangzu couldn't help but gasp, taking 2 steps back. Yichu had already turned around. Pointed at, Jiangzu quickly covered her eyes and ran out in a panic. Yichu was stunned. He shook his head helplessly. He didn't seem that scary, did he? Looking down at his tense body, he could only turn up the cold water. Fortunately, he had given a lot to Liu Erlong last night. Otherwise, it would be difficult to calm down. In the courtyard outside, Du Yan and the other girls, who had finished cultivating the purple demon eye, had begun to divide the work, preparing a steaming hot breakfast. Xiaolan, on the swing, saw Jiangzu, soaking wet and flushed, escaping from Zhu Huking's room. She immediately ran over with a grin, a hint of cunning in her eyes. Sister Jiangzu, how are you? Did brother bully you? No, Jiangzu gasped for breath, shaking her head. Her short pink hair clung to her face, making her look very delicate. I'll go change my clothes first. Jiangzu lowered her head, not daring to look at Du Yan and the others, and ran back to her room. Miss Rongrong, what do you think Jiangzu's progress is? Du Yan chuckled, guessing with Ning Rongrong. HMPH. Look at her, so deaf and blind. Maybe she just wiped his back and then ran away. Ning Rongrong looked at Du Yan angrily. The first time she wiped Yichu's back, she heard that Yichu had not only almost entered Du Yan's room, but had also already been married. At that time, she was extremely embarrassed. However, after meeting more sisters, she realized that her figure was at the bottom. That's when she began to study the music of string and wind instruments. I think so too, Du Yan nodded in agreement. Then, looking at Yi Lingling beside her, she teased, Lingling, you can't be like Jiangzu, who thinks it's okay if you get hurt because your husband will heal you. Yanzi. You shouldn't say such things. Yi Lingling raised her eyes and rolled her eyes at her. Sister is teaching you. Look at Miss Ning, she's already reserved her spot. Since you've already made up your mind, what's there to be shy about? Afraid of causing a death? Then do something that won't cause a death. Du Yan put her arm around Yi Lingling's slender waist, gently pinched Yi Lingling's chin, and lectured her. Yanzi, I know what I'm doing. Yi Lingling's face was flushed with embarrassment under her veil. Du Yan had taught her a lot, but she couldn't do it. Lingling, do you want Sister Xiao to lend you a batch of carrots? Crunch Xiao, who was munching on a carrot beside her, couldn't help but interject. PFFT, cough cough, Bai Chengxian couldn't help but laugh, choking on her own saliva. Noticing Ning Rongrong's gaze, Zhu Huqing quietly moved further away. In her memory, it seemed she was the one who first used a straw to drink milk. Just as Shrek Academy was heading to the starred-out Great Forest, when Yichu gave her the immortal herb, Henki Ushin silently observed them. It was quite remarkable that Senior Yichu could gather these sisters with such different personalities together. In Jianghu's bathroom, she was frantically scratching her pink hair. What was wrong with her? Just now, Yichu was clearly going to do something to her, so why did he run away so hastily? But Yichu's body was really domineering. Jianghu couldn't help but imagine that if she were hit, she might die. Thinking of Liu Erlong, who was still lying in bed, Jianghu finally understood why even the dean, a soul Douluo, couldn't resist being disciplined. She also understood why the other sisters trusted the dean so much. Jianghu patted her shapely chest, took a deep breath, and rinsed herself with warm water. Where should she ask Yichu to take her? Should she take him to her village? Or should she drag him around the Blue Tyrant Academy? When Yichu came out of the room dressed, a long outdoor dining table was already set with cooked egg noodles. Jianghu had also changed her clothes and sat down. Husband, I didn't expect you to come out so just in time. We were just about to send Jianghu into the tiger's den to call you for dinner. Du Yan rested her chin on her hand, glancing at Jianghu out of the corner of her eye, a teasing smile on her lips. Jianghu looked up, wanting to explain, but didn't know what to say. She had indeed been frightened out of her. Alright, Yan Yan and Zhu Qing have already broken through to level 49. When are you going to break through to level 50? Yichu rolled his eyes at her and sat down next to Jianghu as he spoke. There's still a distance to go. Don't worry, we'll definitely make it before the finals. When it came to serious matters, Du Yan became much more serious. Wishing everyone a pleasant life. Chapter 630. You are all my wings. Du Yan smiled and added, maybe the day it's your turn to accompany someone else, Yan Yan will break through. That would be perfect. Yichu smiled and nodded, taking the bowl and chopsticks Jianghu handed him. But I'm still a little unhappy that I'm not the first to absorb a 40,000-year soul ring, Du Yan pouted. Zhu Ke had also spent quite a bit of time in this courtyard. What Yichu didn't say, they could naturally learn from Zhu Ke during their late-night bonfire activities where the sisters would talk and tell stories. Do we have to compare these things? The soul ring's age hasn't decreased. Slurp, Xiao Wu pouted, picked up the noodles on the table, and slurped them down. The first time is always somewhat memorable, right? Bai Chengxiang said softly. Of course, Du Yan nodded in deep agreement. For example, Xiao Wu is your husband's first love, and the first person he's had a physical relationship with. She must have a deep impression of him. She wouldn't forget that when she asked him for sex, saying she was too young, and when she suggested Yichu seduce Xiao Wu, he didn't object. Xiao Wu blushed, but remained defiant. First love is the first, it's perfectly reasonable. Exactly. Ning Rongrong looked at Du Yan, her eyes filled with resentment. She should be the one in a bad mood. She had just managed to win over that blockhead Yichu, and not long after, that jerk stole him away. She couldn't help but say, you're no better. You were the first to bring Yichu into the industry. Although you didn't break into the industry, it's enough for that jerk to remember you, and the bizarre incident of his grandfather drugging him only adds to the memory. That's true. Du Yan rolled her eyes and nodded frankly. She didn't think much of it. This matter was already common knowledge in the courtyard. There's no need to talk about these things, is there? Yichu was at his wit's end. What he feared most was these female confidants who insisted on putting people in a superior position in front of him. Our experiences are different. There are many things I've only done with one of you. There's no need to compare. Is brother going to be sweating buckets? Xiaolan squinted her eyes and smiled mischievously. She was her brother's darling. Definitely. PFFT, Bai Chengxian couldn't help but chuckle softly. Zhu Huqing also lowered her head and smiled gently, a hint of sweetness in her voice. Her confession back then had definitely left a deep impression on Yichu, a truly refreshing experience. Yi Lingling nodded. What she and Yichu did was indeed quite special. Especially considering the existence of her unserious, incompetent, and pretentious mother. After all, looking at these sisters, it seemed like they couldn't find many mothers. And none of them had a mother to help them out. Jiangsu listened quietly to the scene, glancing up at Yichu beside her. Had she given him something different too? Alright, let's not talk about this anymore. We're all getting fed up with our own PDA, Du Yan smiled. Should we call Dean Erlong later? Jiangsu chewed slowly, glancing at Yichu beside her. No need, let Erlong rest a bit more. We'll go cultivate later. Yichu shook his head slightly. He, who knew the battle situation best, was the most qualified to speak. By the way, I don't plan to have you cultivate the 7-in-1 fusion technique today, huh? Then what will we cultivate? Do we have to cultivate the 8-in-1? Ningrongrong bit her chopsticks, frowning. But we haven't fully mastered the 7-in-1 yet. Yichu shook his head. Just the 7-in-1 is too limiting, we can't reveal our trump cards all at once. Does my husband mean we can cultivate the 5-in-1, or the 3-in-1? Zhu's Huking raised an eyebrow, her purple eyes slightly brightening. She had long wanted to experience what it felt like to be the master of a fusion technique. Appropriately reducing the number of people can also reduce the risks. Relying entirely on the 7-in-1 is still too dangerous, like being a sitting duck, Yichu analyzed, stroking his chin. Even his Susanoo has a blind spot in its defense on the ground. If the other 6 women use the 6-in-1, and he supports from the side and can fill in at any time, the mobility of the 7-in-1 fusion technique can obviously be improved a lot. In that case, when we encounter a strong team, we won't always have to have my husband on the field. Even if he can't recover in time when using the 7-in-1, the substitute can play a greater role. Du Yan also nodded. Well, so today, let Zhu Qing take the lead in the 6-in-1 or 5-in-1 fusion technique. While doing some simple training, it won't delay the proficiency of the 7-in-1. After all, different paths lead to the same goal. Great. This way, our burden will be much lighter, and we won't have to sleep for so long at noon to recover. Ningrongrong agreed with a smile. If it weren't for the fact that the skill of ring fusion couldn't be mastered quickly, she would have wanted her other sisters to learn it properly as well. After all, even a solo soul master using ring fusion can unleash considerable power. Ho Wu's fiery sun dance is a good example. With the cultivation of a soul master, one can unleash the power of a soul king's 5th soul skill. Yichu made another suggestion. Also, at night, we can go to the soul arena for team battles. Our cultivation levels are all over 40, which is much more effective than ganging up on soul beasts. Great. Great. Sister Xiao Wu hasn't fought in so long that she's almost forgotten about the soul arena. From now on, Xiao Chu will take Sister Xiao Wu there every day. Let's kick their butts until they're bruised. Xiao Wu waved the carrot in her hand, full of enthusiasm. No problem, we'll go together, and Xiao Tian too. Yichu turned to look at Han Chu Tian at the end of the table. Yes, thank you, Senior. Han Chu Tian nodded seriously. She also wanted to try out her chaotic cloak hammer technique to see if it could be used in actual combat, according to Senior Yichu's suggestion. He could use the flexible blue-silver flying hammer to develop the chaotic cloak dance, a technique that allowed for continuous movement and seamless defense. The morning's cultivation session ended. Yichu left early with Jiangsu. Xiao Lan and the others were left at the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. The frequent high-class banquets were nothing new to them. Jiangsu didn't say where she wanted to go, so Yichu took it upon himself to bring her to his soul palace. He hadn't been there in a long time. He wondered if Lu Gao had made any new progress on his hidden weapons. But in Yichu's opinion, it was probably unlikely. Have a pleasant life, everyone. Chapter 631. Is he your man or your mother? Yichu didn't stay at the Soul Palace with Jiangsu for long before leaving. The outcome was roughly as he'd expected. The Yama's decree, thanks to Douluo's efforts, was nearing completion. As for the 3 main hidden weapons, Buddha's Wrath Tang Lotus, Rain of Pear Blossom Needles, and Peacock Feather, except for the Buddha's Wrath Tang Lotus, which showed little progress, the other 2 had already yielded numerous parts. Yichu, does your soul palace only have members from those few clans? Jiangsu asked, holding Yichu's hands curiously. Yes, for now, that's all. Yichu nodded, then looked at her with a puzzled expression, wondering why she'd suddenly brought this up. What's wrong? I just wanted to ask, is your soul palace recruiting more people in the future? Jiangsu followed closely beside Yichu, linking her arm with his. Yichu nodded. Of course we need to recruit, but I haven't considered it yet. I see. What? You want me to recruit from Blue Tyrant Academy? Blue Tyrant Academy is mostly populated by commoners, so the choices are limited. As a student personally trained by Liu Erlong, Jiangsu's affection for Blue Tyrant Academy was unquestionable. Hell, don't worry, even if you and Erlong didn't say anything, I would have done it. And you don't need to overthink it. The Empire and the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile School both invested in Blue Tyrant Academy before. As long as the students aren't too bad, finding suitable places for them is quite easy. Yichu put his arm around Jiangsu's waist, activated his divine power, and disappeared from the spot. Jiangsu's personality wasn't very proactive, so Yichu had to take the initiative. Of course, Yichu wouldn't go too far. It was just kissing, touching, hugging, lying together, reaching into her clothes to warm up, and a little caressing. Over the course of 2 days, both of them were quite restrained, but Jiangsu no longer felt embarrassed by Yichu's intimacy. She could manage a back rub, but taking things a step further, getting Yichu into a state of harmony, was beyond her skill. However, Jiangsu said she could learn. Yi residence. Evening. Yichu was keeping Yi Lingling company, dealing with Yikinshu's attempts to feed him. Lingling, what's wrong with you? You're only thinking about eating yourself. Are you always like this? Yikinshu put down her chopsticks, glaring at Yi Lingling with displeasure. They were already together. Her own silly daughter still didn't understand anything, not even how to serve her man food. Knowing this guy had so many women, if she didn't act more enthusiastically, when would her belly ever show any signs of pregnancy? Mom, you've already filled his plate, I'm not joining in anymore. Yi Lingling swallowed her food ladylike, pursed her lips, and said helplessly. It's all because you don't lift a finger. If you were more proactive, would I, as your mother, have to work so hard? Is Iochu your man or mine? Yikinshu said, her chopsticks never stopping, constantly adding food to Yichu's bowl. She practically wanted to shove it into his mouth. Mom! What are you saying? Yi Lingling's face flushed, whether from anger or embarrassment, it was hard to tell. PFFT, cough. Yichu choked on his words. His puffed-out cheeks were full of food, and he almost coughed it up. Yichu, eat slowly. Yi Lingling's face was red. She felt a little guilty for not stopping him from eating, and gently patted his back. Xiaochu, come on, have some of the nourishing soup that Auntie especially prepared for you too. Yikinshu quickly ladled out the soup and pushed it in front of Yichu. Thank you, Aunt Yi. Yichu nodded slightly, but his outstretched hand was slapped back by Yikinshu. Mom, Yi Lingling looked at her reproachfully. What kind of look is that? You're so insensible. Yikinshu raised an eyebrow, took the soup in her hand, and handed it to Yi Lingling. Like this, you're someone's wife now, can't you be more sensible? Let your mother worry less about so many women. You're a support character, if you don't behave well, you might get bullied. Yi Lingling was stunned for a moment, then shook her head helplessly. Although she had many sisters, it wasn't some royal harem. There was no need for so much scheming. However, these things weren't really her responsibility. Usually, Ning Rongrong, Du Yan, and Liu Erlong did them, and now that they weren't around, it was her turn. Aunt Yi, I won't let that happen. Rongrong and Xiao won't bully Lingling either. Yichu patted her chest, her voice still muffled. Of course Aunt Yi believes you. If Lingling were really bullied, she wouldn't be so talkative. It's much more fun than before. Yikinshu squinted, watching her daughter gently patting Yichu's back and feeding him soup, her expression satisfied. Aunt Yi, what kind of soup is this? Yichu, having drunk a few sips to calm down, noticed a somewhat familiar taste and felt a warm current surging in his stomach, his expression uncertain. Didn't I just say it was a nourishing soup specially made for you two? Yikinshu swayed her voluptuous figure, a blush creeping onto her face. Yi Lingling frowned, noticing Yikinshu's unusual behavior and Yichu's flushed cheeks. Her light blue eyes looked into the soup bowl. She reached out her delicate hand, took the soup spoon, and stirred it a couple of times. There were segments of cylindrical objects and other medicinal herbs in it. Yichu's expression changed. Although he didn't recognize the stewed medicinal herbs, he could still recognize the meat. Tiger penis. And kidneys too. The Yi family runs a clinic in Xiandao City, so Yi Lingling naturally knows some medicine. Those herbs are clearly aphrodisiacs. Cough. Yichu coughed twice, silently pushing away the soup Yi Lingling offered. He really didn't need this kind of stuff. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to sleep tonight. Mom, why did you put these things on the table? Yi Lingling's face turned red. Yi Qinshu smiled awkwardly. I heard you say you were going to stay at home overnight, didn't I? What? Yi Lingling stared at her in surprise. How much did her mother want her to give herself to Yichu? Did she want to live a few more years? Mom, I'm going to get angry if you put these things on the table again. Yi Lingling's voice had turned cold. Mom is doing this for you, it's not like it'll cause any deaths. Your Qinshu's tone softened slightly. Yi Lingling glanced at the somewhat embarrassed Yichu beside her, pursed her red lips, and stammered, Anyway, don't interfere in these kinds of things in the future, okay? Yi Qinshu waved her hand helplessly. But you two are probably staying home tonight, right? Not sleeping in separate rooms, are you? Your Qinshu's eyes held a hint of anticipation, her gossip-loving spirit was already burning. Wishing everyone a happy life? Chapter 632 Aren't you afraid Yichu will climb into the wrong bed? Yi Lingling lowered her head. Her fair, jade-like neck was slightly bent, seemingly avoiding eye contact with Yi Qinshu. She carefully picked up her bowl of soup and gently handed it to Yichu, her movements revealing a hint of shyness. Yichu glanced helplessly at Yi Qinshu. A trace of helplessness flashed in his deep eyes, he was used to his mother-in-law's teasing. Yi Lingling rolled her eyes at him helplessly and said softly, If I said no, do we have any other rooms in our house? Your Qinshu smiled even more brightly upon hearing this. She waved her hand, pretending to be mysterious, and said, How could we? We have plenty of rooms. Then, her tone changed, becoming playful again, but they're all full, and we're just a widow and her son. Lingling, are you sure you trust Yichu? What if he goes to the wrong place? PFFT. Yichu's expression changed upon hearing this. He quickly covered his mouth, afraid he would spit out the soup. Haha, your Qinshu couldn't help but laugh out loud at Yichu's disheveled appearance, laughing so hard she almost shook her head. Mom. What are you saying? You're shameless. Yi Lingling's face turned bright red. She couldn't believe her mother would say such things. She glared at her mother, inwardly scolding her for her inappropriate behavior. However, when she looked at Yichu, a ripple of emotion stirred within her. She thought of her mother's friends, Liu Erlong and Tang Yuhe. Could Yichu really have feelings for her? Yi Lingling was startled by her own thoughts. She quickly shook her head, banishing these absurd ideas. Yichu quickly finished the soup in his bowl. He chuckled dryly, Aunt Yi, maybe I should take Lingling back to the academy. No, Xiao, Auntie was just joking. You and Lingling should stay here peacefully. Auntie promises not to wander off at night and cause you two any trouble. Yi Qinshu smiled and stopped Yichu from getting up. Yichu really couldn't handle it. Yi Qinshu was the only living mother-in-law he had ever met, and she was really difficult to deal with. He could only look at Yi Lingling. Yi Qinshu's phoenix eyes kept winking at her daughter. You brat, Mom was just joking. No matter what, Mom wouldn't steal your man. If he dares to go the wrong way, I'll kick him out and pack him up and throw him back into your room, Mom. If you keep saying such nonsense, I'm really going to take Yichu away. Under these words, Yi Lingling was incredibly embarrassed by Yichu's gaze. Alright, I was just kidding. Your Qinshu pinched Yichu's reddened cheek, unable to resist clicking her tongue in amazement. Xiao, your skin is even better than Aunt Yi's. Slap. Yi Lingling helplessly slapped her hand away. She pulled Yichu towards her bedroom, not forgetting to turn back and remind Yi Qinshu, Mom, you'd better not come to my room tonight. Don't worry, Mom doesn't like watching those things. Xiao, have you eaten yet? Your Qinshu smiled and waved, but received no response, so she rested her chin on her hand and looked at the moon alone. A smile played on her lips as she murmured, Lingling used to be sullen all the time, and she still doesn't smile much? She doesn't know how to learn from her mother, to live one day at a time and do whatever is interesting. Yichu, you should be full, right? Yi Lingling asked softly, linking her arm with Yichu's, the two walking side by side down the corridor of the mansion. The moonlight bathed the tranquil night in a soft glow. If you're still hungry, I'll have the servants prepare some more. No need, I'm full from just the vegetables. Yichu rubbed his stomach. Since they sat down at the table, Yi Qinshu hadn't eaten anything, while Yichu hadn't stopped eating. That's good, Yi Lingling smirked, a hint of teasing in her eyes. She'd never seen Yichu eat like that before. Lingling, You don't even care about her, why are you gloating? Yichu wrapped his arm around Yi Lingling's waist and gave it a playful pinch. Yi Lingling calmly replied, it's because you don't know how to refuse. Who doesn't know how to refuse? And you stuffed so much, I couldn't say no. Suddenly, Yichu stopped in the corridor, pinning Yi Lingling against the wall. He looked down at her. The black veil was no longer on her face. She looked to be in her early 20s, slender and petite, dressed in all black, with long, flowing blue hair cascading down her back. What are you doing? What are you doing? Yi Lingling's pale blue eyes trembled, her face flushed, her soft hand resting on Yichu's chest. Move aside, she might see us. Yan Yan asked me to kiss you first. Yichu wrapped his arm around Yi Lingling's waist, pressing his forehead against hers, and breathed out. Yanzi, Yi Lingling was taken aback, a strange look flashing across her face. She remembered yesterday at noon. Du Yan had been showing off her candied hawthorn skewer, licking all the rock sugar off it. She'd even given her one, telling her to learn how to use it today. She hadn't expected her to give Yichu a task too. Yi Lingling's face was flushed, her fingertips nervously clutching Yichu's clothes. Hesitantly, she said, shouldn't you be listening to me today? Why are you listening to Yanzi? Not really, after all, I did want to get closer to you. Yichu gently turned his head and slowly kissed her. Someone will. Oh, Yi Lingling's slightly parted cherry lips were already captured by Yichu's gentle touch. Yichu gently turned his head, sticking out his tongue and blowing hot breath. Yi Lingling clenched her fists, tilting her head back and silently cooperating. Yichu's hands didn't move around, but simply held Yi Lingling's slender waist and pinched the soft flesh on her waist. After a while, Yichu raised his head, revealing some glistening saliva that shimmered in the moonlight. Yi Lingling breathed heavily, somewhat dazed by Yichu's kiss, seemingly not having reacted yet. Her cherry lips were still slightly open, sticking out her pink little tongue and gently swaying it. Alright, mission accomplished. Yichu pursed his lips, gently stroking Yi Lingling's slightly dizzy, moist red lips. He poked her tongue, which hadn't yet retracted. Lingling, are you alright? Yi Lingling, snapping out of her daze, blushed deeply, quickly closing her mouth and looking at Yichu shyly. She shook her head. If anyone had seen her sticking out her tongue, she would have been incredibly embarrassed. Yi Lingling glanced around furtively for a moment, then pulled Yichu towards her room. Let's go back to our room first, okay? Yichu nodded, letting Yi Lingling lead him. Wishing everyone a happy life. Chapter 633 Yi Lingling's Ignition of Courage. The Yi residence. Deep within the mansion, Yi Lingling's boudoir was quiet and still. The room was elegantly and comfortably furnished, every detail revealing the girl's delicate and precious nature. Moonlight streamed in through the window, casting a soft glow on the space. Yichu remembered the last time he stepped into this room, it was when Yi Qinshu had tricked him into coming for dinner. Now, he had finished washing up and was lying on the soft bed, resting with his eyes closed. Feeling the softness and comfort of the bed, a strange sense of peace welled up within him. The sound of running water came from the bathroom. Yi Lingling was tidying up. Through the glass door, Yichu could vaguely see a slender and graceful figure washing herself. The figure was delicate and alluring, causing Yichu's heart to race and his breathing to become erratic. He raised his hand to stroke his face. He had drunk the nourishing soup Yi Qinshu had prepared today. He wondered if he would be able to sleep. The medicine seemed to be taking effect. Her cheeks felt hot, and she felt a surge of strength. Yichu let out a long breath, trying to calm the turmoil in her heart. A moment later, Yi Lingling, having finished washing up, emerged gracefully from the steamy bathroom like a lotus rising from the water. Her clear, bright eyes shimmered with a pale blue light, as if holding a deep, still lake. Her long, slightly upturned eyelashes were like lines carefully drawn by an artist. Whenever she blinked, they fluttered like butterflies, adding a touch of liveliness and allure to her exquisite face. Her nose was high and straight, her lips rosy. Even without her signature black veil, one could sense the cool and noble aura she exuded. Her long, pale blue hair cascaded down her back like a waterfall, water droplets glistening on it. Her figure was slender and well-proportioned, with exquisitely defined curves, every inch of her skin seemingly sculpted, flawless. She wore a black nightgown that clung to her body, showcasing her graceful figure to the fullest. However, the nightgown covered her completely, making one wonder about the secret behind it. Yichu looked at Yi Lingling before him, a hint of doubt flashing in his eyes. He couldn't help but ask, Lingling, Aren't you uncomfortable wearing something so tight? Hearing this, Yi Lingling's face flushed slightly. She crossed her long, straight, beautiful legs, her light blue hair gently covering her reddened cheeks. She gently shook her head and softly explained, "There's nothing else here at home." She wasn't intentionally trying to prevent Yichu from acting out of character. She had spent quite a bit of time with Yichu, and he was definitely not the kind of person to force someone. The truth is, all those sexy pajamas she owned were bought with Douluo and the others, and they were all left at Lamba Academy. She didn't have any suitable replacements at home. Otherwise, she wouldn't be wearing this set. It was so tight that Yichu could inadvertently see her layout. Walking in it felt like Yichu was tickling her. However, wearing this set did have some advantages. Being touched by Yichu through the clothes didn't make her so shy. Seeing Yi Lingling's embarrassed way of walking with her legs tucked together, Yichu suggested, "Should I go back and get it now?" Yi Lingling shook her head and said softly, "No need, I'll just make do for the night." Her voice was shy as she slowly walked towards Yichu. "Okay." Yichu got up and picked Yi Lingling up in his arms. Touching the black silk pajamas, Yichu realized that he could almost feel the delicate skin and warmth beneath. "Thank you." Yi Lingling blushed and lowered her eyes as she thanked him. Yichu glanced at her tightly bound breasts, which were clearly erect. "Given our relationship, is there any need for thanks?" Yichu looked away, shaking his head with a smile. He carried Yi Lingling back to the bedside and placed her on his lap. Ugh, Yi Lingling whimpered. Not only could Yichu feel her softness and warmth through her black stockings, but she could also feel Yichu's intrusion. Yichu held her, gently moving her away slightly from the burning firewood. "Let me dry your hair first, okay?" Yi Lingling nodded, hooking her arms around Yichu's neck and leaning against his shoulder. Her exquisite body radiated heat. The intrusion just now reminded her of Douluo's request. She thought of Douluo eating candied hawthorns in front of her. Her face slowly turned red. She couldn't be as picky as Douluo, only eating candy and refusing hawthorn. But she simply didn't like sweets. As Yi Lingling's thoughts wandered, Yichu gently stroked her pale blue hair, the water droplets instantly disappearing. "Alright, Lingling, get some rest." Yichu gently grasped her soft thigh, preparing to settle her on the bed. Yi Lingling nodded, but as Yichu set her down, she bit her red lips and pulled him into her arms. Yichu was no novice. He immediately understood Yi Lingling's meaning, gently leaning down to kiss her offering lips. Yi Lingling hooked her arms around Yichu's neck, her slender body slightly raised. Yichu wrapped one arm around her delicate body, pulling her into his embrace, kneading and squeezing her soft flesh. Yi Lingling's silk nightgown offered no respite from the touch. Yichu scooped up some peanuts in his hand, gently peeling off the skin. He then gently leaned over Yi Lingling's delicate body, lightly rubbing against her tight skin to expel any moisture from her body. Yi Lingling felt weak all over and trembled slightly. She couldn't help but clutch Yichu's collar at the back of his neck. Fortunately, Yichu only greeted her at the door and didn't intend to barge into the room. Yi Lingling breathed a sigh of relief. Yichu rolled over, leaving her soft, warm body. Both of them lay on the bed, breathing heavily. Yi Lingling turned back to look at Yichu, examining his still-moving body. She pursed her red lips, struggling with her feelings. Yichu, are you sleepy?" Yi Lingling turned to look at Yichu, her wet legs pressed tightly together, pink skin beneath her silk nightgown. Her soft hands trembled slightly, wanting to hold on to her man. "Yes, sleepy. Lingling, let's rest early." Yichu hesitated for a moment, then nodded, unfolding the blanket beside him and spreading it over them both. "Okay then." Yichu's quick reply seemed to have extinguished the courage Yi Lingling had mustered. She could only nod hesitantly and lie quietly on the bed. The room darkened, and Yi Lingling's courage was rekindled. Yichu didn't want to neglect Yi Lingling. He turned to his side, slightly bending over to avoid scalding her. He reached out and gently embraced Yi Lingling's delicate body. Wishing everyone a happy life. Chapter 634 Douluo's homework check. Anyway, Yichu felt he wouldn't be able to sleep for a long time. All he needed to do now was coax Yi Lingling to sleep. Feeling Yichu's burning body and hot breath, Yi Lingling understood his unease. After all, her own body was still tingling, especially the places Yichu had just touched, her breasts, her buttocks, and the areas he had rubbed against. They were still flushed, not yet calmed down. Yi Lingling turned to her side, staring at Yichu in the darkness. Her soft hand slowly stroked Yichu's belly, already feeling the throbbing. Yichu opened his eyes, and Yi Lingling closed them. Gritting her teeth, her face showing embarrassment, she hardened her heart and immediately grasped the heat in the darkness. Yi Chu's body trembled. Even though Yi Lingling's soft hand was very warm, compared to the warmth, he still felt a chill. When Yi Chu looked back again, Yi Lingling was no longer there. But he knew she was right beside him. He could feel her awkwardness, her gentleness and tenderness, and her deep affection for him. Yi Chu could feel it all clearly. It was the dead of night. Yi Chu lay with his eyes closed, fists clenched, his expression a mixture of comfort and discomfort. He seemed to be having a beautiful dream. Suddenly, the blankets collapsed, and Yi Chu in his dream felt as if he had fallen from the clouds into an abyss. He jerked his eyes open, clutching the blankets, gasping for breath. Yi Chu sat up, pressing the blankets against his chest, tilting his head back and letting out a long sigh. The blankets twitched twice in his arms. It turned out Yi Lingling had been startled awake by Yi Chu's sudden awakening. Yi Chu paused, turning his head to look. Yi Lingling had also gotten up, covering half her face, her throat moving. Lingling, I'm sorry. Yi Lingling was speechless, only shaking her head. Yi Chu quickly turned on the light. Yi Lingling didn't say much, burying her face in the blanket, hugging it and snuggling against Yi Chu a couple of times. Then, still clutching the blanket, she jumped off the bed, barefoot, and ran to the bathroom. Her long, beautiful legs seemed about to cross. Seeing Yi Lingling close the bathroom door behind her, Yi Chu scratched his head and sat on the edge of the bed, waiting for her to come out again. He had already finished the cleanup. He didn't need to do anything more. The sound of running water and the glow of Yi Lingling using her martial soul could be heard from inside. When Yi Lingling came out, her face was flushed. The blanket she had just used was now soaking in water. Yi Chu, let's rest. Yi Lingling couldn't focus her gaze on Yi Chu's face and stomach. She quickly threw herself into Yi Chu's arms, pressing herself close to him. She felt somewhat fortunate that her martial soul possessed powerful healing abilities. Otherwise, her swollen lips and hoarse voice would have made her quite uncomfortable. Yi Chu nodded slightly. Yes, thank you, Lingling. Didn't you just say that we don't need to use those two words in our relationship? Yi Lingling hugged Yi Chu, slightly annoyed. She had already done this for him, so why was he becoming distant? I just felt a little awkward for you, Yi Chu stammered, gently embracing the delicate body in his arms. Everything has a first time, doesn't it? Isn't this an unforgettable memory? Yi Lingling said shyly. She had indeed been hesitant at first, but after actually experiencing it, she realized she had been scaring herself. Of course, those last few breaths had indeed given her quite a shock. A warm current surged into her body. She didn't know if her other sisters could fully withstand it, but she was already feeling somewhat overwhelmed. Okay, rest now. Don't think about anything else. I'm tired, Yi Lingling urged sweetly, reminding Yi Chu that she was exhausted. Even with treatment, the muscle soreness and suffocation made her not want to experience it again anytime soon. Yi Chu nodded, then gently pulled Yi Lingling down to lie down. Do you need a blanket? No, just hold me. Yi Lingling snuggled into Yi Chu's arms, her long, straight legs playfully resting against him. Early the next morning, when Yi Chu returned to Lianba Academy with Yi Lingling, Du Yuan pulled Yi Lingling aside to check her homework. Lingling, how was it? How long did it take? Yanzi, I don't want to talk about this kind of thing. Yi Lingling's face was flushed under the black veil, but due to Du Yuan's long-standing instruction, she endured the embarrassment and whispered, not too difficult to deal with, but so powerful it was suffocating. In the end, I couldn't handle it, PFFT, ha ha ha. Du Yuan covered her red lips and let out a coquettish laugh. Just from a few words and Yi Lingling's expression, she could tell that her good student had diligently completed the assignment she had given. She herself had returned in the same way back then. However, she no longer found it too difficult to deal with, unless the power was too profound. After all, her martial soul was a snake. Her long snake tongue and supple snake body had already made her adaptable. Alright, Yanzi, I won't talk to you anymore. Yi Lingling lowered her head, not wanting to discuss this topic any further. If the other sisters found out, there would be another round of teasing and suggestive remarks. Alright, but did your husband pin you against the wall? Du Yuan didn't forget to check the homework she had assigned Yi Chu. Yes, he suddenly pinned me against the wall. Yi Lingling's voice was a little resentful, but her eyes were full of smiles. Even though she had been teased to the point of being a little infatuated, it was still an unforgettable memory. It seems your husband did very well too. Du Yan hugged Yi Lingling's waist, her eyes filled with smiles and expectations. Yan, what are you and Lingling still talking about? Hurry up and come cultivate, Liu Erlong, who had already recovered, urged the two women. At this moment, she was much more charming than before. Her temper was more restrained, and she was more gentle. Her face had an alluring rosy blush, and her eyes were full of flirtatious glances. Every smile and frown was full of the charm of a mature woman. They say that a son needs a beating to be filial, but isn't it the same with a dutiful wife? Here she comes. Sister Erlong, Du Yan, carrying Yi Lingling, quickly leaped onto the roof, looking at Yichu, who was surrounded by Ning Rongrong and Xiao Wu. Yi Lingling didn't seem to care. Time slowly passed. In the Moon Pavilion, Princess Zuke was overjoyed by Yichu's arrival. Yichu Zuke, dressed in a long palace gown and wearing a laurel crown, gently threw herself into Yichu's arms. She had been calculating the days. Now was the time for Yichu to spend with Tang Yuhe. She had gotten up early and was waiting here, trying to carve out some time alone with Yichu. Even if it was only half an hour, or even half a minute, it would be fine. Zuke, you must have gotten Yuhe's permission for this, right? Yichu smiled and ruffled her hair. Wishing everyone a happy life. Chapter 635 The Haoshan sect is a big joke. Zuke nestled in Yichu's arms, her pale yellow palace dress perfectly showcasing her slender figure. Holding Yichu tightly, she whispered, "Of course I told Teacher Yuhe, it was just for a little while, that's good." Yichu gently stroked her slender waist and lightly kissed her forehead. Creak. Tang Yuhe suddenly emerged from the room. She said softly, "Zuke, how about we have breakfast together?" Teacher Yuhe, is that alright?" Zuke trembled slightly, looking up at Tang Yuhe with delight. "Of course," Tang Yuhe smiled gently. "Great." Zuke excitedly jumped up and down, her soft body brushing against Yichu's, a sight that stirred the heart. Having been granted breakfast together, Zuke tactfully released Yichu. Yichu turned to look at the beautiful woman approaching him. She was clearly dressed up carefully. Tang Yuhe's figure was graceful, her steps light and lithe, as if each step were on clouds. Her gait was steady yet light, her posture upright and elegant. Her long hair, a deep gray-blue like the night sky, was styled into an updo with precious hair ornaments, resembling a blooming lotus flower, elegant and noble. Two bangs gently swayed across her forehead, adding a touch of softness and charm. Her face was ethereal and refined, her skin as white as jade, her eyes deep as pools, and her nose straight and delicate. A faint smile appeared on her lips, like a spring breeze, refreshing and delightful. Her every move exuded an innate composure. She wore a silver palace-style long dress, the lines of her shoulders and neck flowing like a swan's, breathtaking. The neckline of the dress was slightly open, revealing her delicate collarbone and a hint of her bust, adding to her allure and sensuality. Her waist was slender, supporting her full breasts and pert buttocks, the slender waist highlighting the softness and suppleness of her body. The hem of her palace dress swayed gently with her steps, rising and falling like waves, perfectly outlining the curves of her hips. Her legs were long and shapely, clad in exquisite crystal high heels, making her walk even more graceful. A faint, elegant fragrance wafted from her. "Yuhe, this is the first time I've seen you so beautiful." Yichu's voice was gentle as he gently pulled Tang Yuhe's soft, mature body into his embrace, as if trying to merge her into his own. His azure eyes lingered on her jade-like white skin, as if admiring a work of art. A blush rose on Tang Yuhe's cheeks as she suppressed her longing, gently inhaling that familiar scent. It had been so long since she had embraced Yichu like this. She murmured softly, a hint of melancholy in her voice. "Chu, wasn't I pretty before?" "Of course not, you're just exceptionally beautiful today," Yichu chuckled, raising his hand to gently stroke Tang Yuhe's delicate, fair face. His fingers glided lightly across her cheek, as if playing a beautiful melody. He couldn't resist lowering his head to gently capture her luscious red lips, savoring their warm sweetness, his tongue lightly licking her lips, leaving a few glistening drops. Beautiful for you," Tang Yuhe murmured, her full body trembling slightly. She gently closed her eyes, enjoying the sweetness and warmth Yichu brought her. Her heart raced, her blood boiling, as if she were melting in Yichu's arms. "All right, there's not much time this morning, let's fill our stomachs first." Yichu stopped after a brief taste. putting his arm around Tang Yuhua, taking Zukei's small hand, and walking into the room. In the morning, he still had to rush back to take Ningrongrong and the others to the 7 treasure glazed tile school for cultivation. Inside the room, on the low table in the middle, a sumptuous meal was prepared, mostly green and white dishes. Although light in color, they were fragrant and mouth-watering. By the way, Yuhua, I met a little girl from the Haoshan sect in Nodding City, Yichu said, enjoying the breakfast prepared by Tang Yuhua. He suddenly remembered that Han Haotian should call Tang Yuhua and, a little girl from the Haoshan sect. Tang Yuhua was puzzled. She hadn't been back there for over 10 years and knew nothing about what had happened. Yes, she's Tang Xiao's daughter, Yichu nodded, not hiding anything, and told Tang Yuhua about Tan Haotian's experience. I didn't expect them to still be like this. Tang Yuhua gently put down the hot porridge in her hand, her eyes filled with disappointment. She couldn't help but sneer. The #1 sect in the world, how laughable, Yuhua. This was the first time Yichu had seen such a targeted expression on Tang Yuhua's face. It was a stark contrast to her usual gentleness and elegance. I'm fine, Chiu. I was just stating the facts. Tang Yuhua shook her head calmly. This was her true thought. When she accompanied the Tang brothers on their trip down the mountain, she had already begun to realize that the so-called Haoshan twins were nothing more than cowards who bullied the weak and feared the strong in their early years. When things were going well, they all seemed like pillars of strength. But when danger struck, they were cowards who would abandon their own sister and run away. They even used her as a gamble, hoping those guys would spare their lives. If Yichu hadn't saved her, her life would have ended in endless humiliation. Then there were the 2 brothers scheming against Yin. And when the Spirit Hall attacked the Haoshan sect, they abandoned Tang Hao's family and all the affiliated sects, turning into cowards. This behavior made Tang Yuhua realize even more deeply that the entire Haoshan sect, from top to bottom, was full of cowards who bullied the weak and feared the strong. The so-called mighty Haoshan sect was nothing more than a slightly bigger joke. Hearing about Han Haotian's affair, Tang Yuhua finally realized that the Haoshan sect had never changed. Everyone says merchants are driven by profit. Everyone says Ningfengzi is a cunning old fox. Little do they know, the Haoshan sect, which outwardly claims to be tough and principled, is actually the most ruthless. They're the type who won't act until they see a benefit. They can abandon even loyal subordinates and blood relatives. Their selfishness is suffocating. This afternoon, or if there's a chance in the next couple of days, I'd like to meet that child, Tang Yuhua said softly. Don't worry. I think Xiaoshan is still very happy to have such a gentle relative like you. Yichu nodded gently in agreement. Teacher, don't think about those worries anymore. I'll play a piece for you. Zukei put down her chopsticks, wiped her mouth, and before receiving a response, quickly stood up. She then planted a small kiss on Yichu's cheek, blushing as she sat down at the harp. Wishing everyone a happy life. Chapter 636 Tang Yuhua's soul ring configuration. Tang Yuhua's gaze gently fell on Zukei, noticing her somewhat guilty expression. She couldn't help but shake her head, a wry smile playing on her lips. She gently pushed Yichu's favorite dishes towards him, her actions revealing meticulous care. Chew, eat more. Tang Yuhua's voice was soft and warm, like a spring breeze caressing the heart, bringing comfort. Yichu nodded and continued to enjoy the delicious meal. The melodious music of Zukei's zither drifted into his ears, gentle and soothing, seemingly capable of cleansing the soul. However, a question lingered in Yichu's mind. What had happened to Tang Yuhua back then? He had tried to ask, but each time Tang Yuhua had cleverly avoided the topic. This time, he didn't ask again. He knew Tang Yuhua still wouldn't tell him. Yichu wasn't discouraged. As time passed, he would gradually learn, understand, and eventually experience it firsthand. Time flowed slowly, and before he knew it, it was noon. Yichu arrived at Yuxun with Han Qiushan. In this elegant and tranquil place, Han Haotian gazed at the beautiful and noble Tang Yuhua before him. His eyes flickered with admiration, curiosity, and a hint of doubt. Tang Yuhua's aura was completely different from that of the Haoshan sect disciples. It was hard to imagine that this noble and elegant woman could be associated with those burly, cold-hearted Haoshan sect disciples. Tang Yuhua smiled slightly, naturally noticing the slight doubt and unease in Han Haotian's eyes. She circulated her soul power. A faint yellow moonlight seemed to emanate from her body, like a goddess descending to earth. Her noble aura did not give off a sense of oppression, but rather a feeling of peace and tranquility. She gently patted Han Haotian's head, her touch tender and affectionate. "My dear child, are you the Xiao that Chu mentioned?" Tang Yuhu's voice was gentle and melodious, as if it could soothe all the turmoil in one's heart. Looking at her, Chu Henshin felt a surge of inexplicable emotion, a natural warmth that made her instinctively hug Tang Yuhu tightly. That warmth, like that of the womb, brought tears to her eyes. "Yes, Auntie," Han Chu's voice trembled slightly with excitement. Yi Chu stood aside, quietly watching this scene. For Tang Yuhu, who hadn't seen her other relatives for a long time, this moment was undoubtedly filled with excitement. She poured all the emotions that had been suppressed in her heart for so long, and who knew no one to vent them to, unto Han Chu. Tang Yuhu hugged Han Chu tightly, as if she wanted to merge her into her own body. Her eyes glistened with tears, and the emotions that had been accumulating for many years were finally released. Tang Yuhu gently stroked Han Chu's hair, softly comforting the little girl in her arms who had been persecuted. Faced with Tang Yuhu's caring concern, Han Chu, who was initially uncomfortable, became more at ease, a smile on her face. "Chu really wants to thank you for teaching Xiao Yan, otherwise I wouldn't know those chaotic cloak hammer techniques." Tang Yuhu gently leaned on Yi Chu's shoulder and kissed his cheek. Just one kiss. It stunned Hiki Ushin, who was in her arms. Her aunt was actually Yi Chu's woman. Shouldn't she call Yi Chu uncle-in-law? Hiki Ushin silently watched, uneasy, trying to minimize her presence. She didn't want to call Yi Chu uncle-in-law. Senior was more appropriate, with endless possibilities. But uncle-in-law was a fact. Hiki Ushin was dizzy from the shock, her mind starting to wander. Soon, as if finding a lifeline, she thought, Sister Xiang should also call my aunt cousin-in-law. If she can be senior-in-law's woman, why can't I? Hiki Ushin was startled by her own rebellious thoughts. She quickly shook her head to clear her mind. Her primary goal now should be to become stronger and destroy the Haoshan sect. Romantic feelings had to be put aside for now. "Xiao, what's wrong?" Tang Yuhu noticed the little girl's movements in her arms and asked, puzzled. "Ah. No, nothing." Hanki Utian quickly shook her head, trying to wipe the blush off her face. But how could Tang Yuhu not sense what was on this little girl's mind? She shook her head helplessly. She didn't know how to talk to Hanki Utian about this. She couldn't possibly support her niece competing with her for a man, could she? She absolutely couldn't say such a thing. However, she didn't object, provided that Hanki Utian could get together with Yi Chu. At such a young age, it was probably just blind worship. "Little Yan, if you have time in a while, could you take your aunt to visit your grandparents?" Tang Yuhu gently rubbed Hanki Utian's head. "Sure, anyway, with Senior Yi Chu around, it's very convenient." Hanki Utian lowered her head and nodded slightly. "No problem, just let me know when you've arranged a time." Yi Chu smiled and agreed. After Han Chu and Tang Yuhu chatted for a while, Han Chu tactfully let Yi Chu take her back. "Chu, you're really charming, aren't you? Would you say you appeal to both young and old?" Back at Yuxun, Tang Yuhu nestled against his shoulder, teasing him softly. "You and Erlong, you're not too old, are you? Still quite fit." Yi Chu chuckled, embracing Tang Yuhu's delicate body and giving it a couple of squeezes. Tang Yuhu let out a soft moan, her face flushing, and she gave Yi Chu a shy, glaring look. "Yuhu, shall I take you for a walk?" Yi Chu gently kissed Tang Yuhu's neck, moving towards her earlobe, pressing her luscious earlobe to his lips, lightly moistening the crimson tip. "Sure, whatever you want." Tang Yuhu's words fell. Yi Chu then disappeared with her from the top floor of Yuxun. When they reappeared, they were already in the blue-silver forest, which resembled a vast ocean. Roar! Just as they appeared, before they even stood still, a beast's roar rang in their ears, followed by Lan Ying's gentle voice. "Yi Chu, be careful." Roar! Yi Chu looked back and saw another 10,000-year-old soul beast that had invaded the blue-silver forest. His eternal kaleidoscope was still open, and he was about to activate his martial soul true body to protect Tang Yuhu beside him. A very gentle power erupted from his side. A golden ring slowly appeared above Tang Yuhu's head, carrying a peaceful and noble aura. Yi Chu knew that was her martial soul Ruai ring. What surprised Yi Chu and shocked Lan Ying next was the soul ring that appeared beneath Tang Yuhu's feet. They were all black soul rings. A total of 7. A gentle wave spread out, and the noble domain slowly unfolded. Wishing everyone a happy life. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 637 What happened to the promise that he wasn't good at fighting? As the domain gradually expanded, the spirit rings beneath Tang Yuhua's feet began to glow slowly, like stars appearing in the night sky, shimmering with a faint light. She stood there quietly, seemingly one with the space. An extremely gentle power emanated from her body, spreading through the domain and quietly permeating the surroundings. The originally restless blue-silver grass gradually calmed under the influence of this power, soothed by a peaceful aura. They swayed gently, as if beckoning to Tang Yuhua. Roar! A roar resounded, shaking the surrounding air. The 10,000-year-old raging bear, originally incredibly ferocious, now appeared somewhat weakened in the face of this gentle power. The ferocity in its size gradually faded, replaced by a hint of calm. Seeing this, Yichu was amazed and activated his martial soul true body, protecting Tang Yuhua behind him. He kept a close eye on the raging bear, fearing it might suddenly attack. However, to his surprise, under Tang Yuhua's influence, the bear gradually slowed its pace and eventually stopped. Its body swayed, as if drunk, staggering towards Yichu and Lan Ying. When it reached Yichu, it was completely powerless, its eyes closed, as if it had fallen into a deep sleep thump. Its massive body crashed to the ground with a dull thud. Lan Ying floated gracefully beside it. Looking at the uniquely charismatic woman beside Yichu, she felt a surge of surprise. As a master of mental power, she could naturally discern the level of power Tang Yuhua displayed. This mental power was similar to hypnosis, but far surpassed it, being much stronger and more profound. What surprised Lan Ying even more was that Tang Yuhua possessed a domain. Her mastery of mental power was probably no weaker than her own. At the same time, Lan Ying felt an extremely positive connection to Tang Yuhua. She felt a strong resemblance in Tang Yuhua's aura, an inexplicable sense of closeness. Yichu, witnessing the scene, was also incredibly surprised. What happened to being bad at combat? She just stood there, without even lifting a finger, and took down a soul beast over 20,000 years old. Is that what you call not good at fighting? Yuhua, what's your strength now? Yichu couldn't help but ask. Tang Yuhua chuckled and took Yichu's arm, unfazed by the blood-red skeletons around them. She said softly, I'm already level 79. I was even planning to wait for you to get stronger so I could add a soul ring. Level 79, Yichu's eyes widened, somewhat speechless. He then withdrew his martial soul true body, rolled his eyes, and said helplessly, didn't you say before that you weren't good at fighting? Did I just fight? Tang Yuhua raised an eyebrow, a rare hint of playfulness appearing on her gentle face. Yichu opened his mouth, speechless. PFFT, Tang Yuhua couldn't help but chuckle, covering her mouth. She hugged Yichu's arm tightly and explained gently, actually, I'm not good at fighting. My soul skills aren't lethal. If I encounter someone with strong mental power who isn't affected, I'm basically helpless. Yichu understood, nodding slightly. He then asked softly, so, these 7 black soul rings of yours, naturally, it's because of you, Tang Yuhua said with a light laugh, her gentle eyes fixed on Yichu. At that moment, a rustling sound suddenly came from beside them. Yichu snapped back to reality. He saw Lan Ying using her true form to slowly drag the 10,000-year-old bear out of the blue-silver forest. Noticing that Yichu and Lan Ying had stopped talking, she asked apologetically, did I disturb you? No. Yichu smiled and shook his head, pulling Tang Yuhua to sit down on the grass. Yuhua, don't stand. Sit or lie down to talk, okay? Tang Yuhua looked at Lan Ying with similar curiosity. The inhuman beauty before her possessed long, blue hair, like the shimmering waves of the deep ocean, sparkling with a captivating luster. Her features were exquisitely beautiful, as if meticulously sculpted by nature, every smile and gesture exuding a gentle aura. She wore a long blue dress, silver ribbons fluttering in the wind, outlining her curvaceous, undulating figure. The dress tightly bound her slender waist, highlighting the ultimate softness and gentleness of her full, pert breasts, radiating an incomparably mature and gentle charm. Tang Yuhua and Lan Ying shared the same feeling. The other's temperament was very similar to hers, both noble and peaceful, like a clear mountain spring, flowing quietly, yet full of vitality. She possessed more talent and a more down-to-earth quality. Lan Ying, on the other hand, possessed more antiquity and compassion. Lan Ying was also staring at Tang Yuhua. She felt that she and the human woman before her might become good friends. The sun shone brightly, and white clouds dotted the sky. Tang Yuhua, like a blooming lotus, gently sat in Yichu's lap, following his movements. Only then did she withdraw her gaze from Lan Ying. Coming back to her senses, a ripple stirred in her heart. Yichu's embrace was always warmer and more reassuring than she had imagined. She gently closed her eyes, feeling the aura emanating from Yichu. In this blue-silver forest, the fragrance was even more intense. A simple embrace seemed insufficient for her. She gently raised her soft hand and placed it on Yichu's warm chest, then gently pushed him away. Yichu obediently lay down on the grass. Tang Yuhu lay in Yichu's arms, and Yichu, in turn, embraced her soft body. Lan Ying, no longer acting as a third wheel, disappeared into her own body. Chu, do you still remember the top-grade herb, the 9th-grade purple Ganoderma? Tang Yuhu's voice was gentle as she answered the question that hadn't been finished earlier. Of course I remember. After Tang Yuhu's words, Yichu roughly understood how she had obtained her current level 79 and 7 10,000-year soul rings. He had wanted to give them to her back then, but she said it was too late. So they had been lying in his divine might space ever since. Judging from Tang Yuhu's timeline, he must have given her the 9th-grade purple Ganoderma a long time ago. Tang Yuhu's next words further confirmed Yichu's guess. Back then, you gave me the 9th-grade purple Ganoderma, and at that time, it would have been easy for you to help me hunt for some high-age soul rings, wouldn't it? Yes, I already guessed. Yichu nodded, embracing Tang Yuhu's body, his large hand gently sliding down her chest. Tang Yuhu squinted her eyes, her face flushed, as if she were taking a nap. She didn't say anything more. Although Yichu had indeed hunted for her first few soul rings, the later ones were all obtained for her by Bibi Dong. Wishing you all a happy life. Chapter 638. Want to see the big kitten taking a bath? The Douluo Empire. Inside the secret chamber of the Zhu family's eldest daughter, Zhu's Huayan. A bathtub with no barriers in the corner, a stone table in the center, a bed slightly against the wall. Every area is unobstructed and interconnected. In the dead of night, steam rises from the teapot on the table. A young man in azure blue sits at the table, quietly waiting for his target to appear. He quietly sips his tea, looking at the sketchbook on the table. Although there are no other colors, only black lines, it is still clear that the figure depicted is himself. Tap, tap. High heels echo on the ground in the dimly lit chamber. Just by listening to the footsteps, one can sense the aloofness of the newcomer. Graceful shadows sway uncertainly in the dim light. Zhu's Huayan walks expressionlessly into her cozy nest. Her short, neat black hair is still there. Beneath it, her face has lost some of its girlish gentleness, but gained a unique solemnity and majesty. Her features were exquisite and delicate, her clear eyes sharp and bright, her high nose giving her face a three-dimensional quality, and her thin lips as delicate as flower petals. A few years older than Su Changzhu, her figure was undoubtedly more voluptuous, exuding the charm of a mature woman. The clothes covering her body were stretched high, the neckline slightly open, revealing glimpses of delicate lace. This outfit was both dignified and alluring, captivating all eyes. She wore leather pants that clung to her long, shapely legs, showcasing her perfect figure. With each stride, her tall frame swayed, her full upper body trembling slightly, her pert buttocks swaying from side to side. Her steps were light yet powerful, each one radiating confidence and charm. Her eyes held a haughty, slightly disdainful gaze, tinged with weariness, exuding a queenly, mature aura, radiating strength, determination, and decisiveness. Upon entering the secret chamber, before even taking 2 steps, a fierce glint flashed in Zhu's Huayan's eyes, and a loud meow resounded. Meow. A purple light flickered, and Zhu's Huayan had entered her martial soul possession state. 2 yellow and 2 purple spirit rings, concealed, swirled around her. Cat ears, purple on the outside and tender on the inside, stood erect on her head. A flamboyant, hooked cat tail swayed behind her, cat claws sprouted from her hands, and her eyes were heterochromatic. Who is it? Zhu's Huayan shouted coldly, twisting her body towards the stone table, slightly crouching, already in battle stance. Before her appeared a patch of azure. The wariness and sharpness in Zhu's Huayan's eyes instantly crumbled. Xiao Chu, she paused, puzzled, then a captivating smile appeared on her face. Sisters Huayan, are you still cultivating so late? Yichu held a cup of hot tea in her hand, raising it gently to Zhu's Huayan and placing it opposite her. Whoosh, Zhu's Huayan's body left after images in the air, already pressed against Yichu's face. The sharp cat claws gently slid across Yichu's chest and face. Her high-bridged nose twitched, inhaling the longed-for fragrance in the air, almost pressing against Yichu's face. Her expression seemed somewhat incredulous. "Little Chu, you actually came to find me on your own initiative, sister. Am I dreaming?" "Of course not," Yichu chuckled awkwardly, forced to lean back slightly by the full body, the intoxicating fragrance, and the warmth. That's good, that's good." Zhu Huayan's sharp claws gently lifted Yichu's chin. "I've missed you so much." Yichu is somewhat aroused by the hot breath. "Sister Huayan, why don't we sit down first?" Zhu Huayan didn't answer, but frowned, buried her face in Yichu's neck, gently biting it, then sticking out her tongue and wandering around for a moment. "Tisk, why does it smell like another woman? It's not Zhu Qing's. It must be a married woman," Zhu Huayan teased, then hugged Yichu's head and pressed it against her narrow, lace-clad chest. She let out a soft moan, her breath hot, and teased, "Little Chu, you haven't done anything bad, have you? Seduced a married woman? I already have Zhu Qing and the others, why would I go and seduce a married woman?" Yichu's voice was muffled, somewhat annoyed. He had only just shared a bed with Tang Yuhua, and after putting her to sleep, he came to inform her about the next 2 days. Unable to resist the soft touch on his cheeks, Yichu pressed his hands against her soft waist, her fiery body hovering above his palms, seemingly able to touch her. He was about to push Zhu Huayan's fiery body back. "Sister Huayan, please let go of me first, I can't breathe, haha." "Oh, okay then." Zhu Huayan blushed and released Yichu, cupping his tender face in her hands. She lowered her head, her eyes filled with undisguised shyness, her soft, seductive voice almost tangible. She breathed a fragrant breeze towards Yichu's face. "By the way, Xiao Chu, would you like to see my big kittens taking a bath?" 7 kittens rubbing each other's bodies. That seductive voice naturally stirred Yichu's memories and fantasies. Just imagining 7 pairs of big kittens bathing together in the misty air, entwined, shaking their buttocks, cupping their breasts, or swaying their hips, was enough to make his blood boil. Having once had the good fortune to see the 2 sisters, 14 pairs of kittens dancing together, Yichu was immediately aroused, and his body began to feel uneasy. Yichu's face showed a hint of embarrassment. He shifted slightly and said awkwardly, "Sister Zuyun, stop teasing me. I'll just stay here for a cup of tea. I'll leave in a bit." Zuyun looked at the slight blush on Yichu's face, a hint of smugness appearing in her seductive eyes. Her eyes lowered, and upon seeing his strong physique, her face flushed. She was quite satisfied with Yichu's reaction. With an alluring smile, she gently released Yichu. "All right. Then I won't tease you anymore." Zuyun stepped back, retracted her martial spirit, and sat not far away. Her straight, shapely legs were placed on Yichu's lap, her high heels still on the ground, her shapely feet seemingly trying to extinguish Yichu's arrogant aura. His sister Zuyun, Yichu's face turned red, and he hunched over, backing away. "What's wrong? Did I hurt you?" Zhu Huayan stopped her outstretched foot, her eyes filled with concern and apology. "No, no," Yichu shook his head. Zhu Huayan's movements were very gentle, and besides, it only tugged at her clothes and affected her a little. It wouldn't hurt her at all. "That's good. I'll just leave it here. It should be fine, right?" Hearing Yichu's answer, Zhu Huayan became bolder, straightening her leg and standing on her tiptoes. When that burning heat came from her toes, Zhu Huayan couldn't help but slightly grit her teeth, her red lips moving, her arms propped on the table, staring at Yichu with a charming expression. "Oh!" The already alluring Zhu Huayan suddenly let out a muffled groan, her face becoming even more flushed, her delicate body trembling slightly, her earlobes seemingly about to bleed. Yichu had already grasped her beautiful foot. Wishing everyone a happy life. Chapter 639. You should compensate me after you've bullied me. Sisters Huayan, stop fooling around, Yichu said softly. His hand had already grasped Zhu Huayan's warm, delicate feet, which were resting on his lap, and moved them slightly away. If she continued like this, he wouldn't be able to walk for a while. "I'm not fooling around. Can I even let you move a little?" Zhu Huayan gave Yichu a coquettish glare, her voice carrying a hint of pleading. Her toes rubbed lightly against Yichu's lap again, as if teasing his senses. At the same time, she felt an unbearable itch, her face flushed, and her purple eyes seemed to well up with tears. The heat from Yichu's palm traveled up her legs, making her involuntarily squeeze them together. Of course I can let you move, but don't move around too much." Yichu's temper flared again, and he reached out and grasped both of Zhu Huayan's feet in his own. Zhu Huayan let out a soft moan. Yichu was the first man to touch her feet like this. Her eyes flickered, noticing Yichu's movement. Still not satisfied, Zhu Huayan pouted slightly, a playful glint in her alluring eyes. She gently moved her toes, seemingly testing Yichu's limits. Yichu frowned slightly, grabbing Zhu Huayan's toes and gently tickling them with his fingers. The movement was both gentle and provocative, as if engaging in a silent contest. In an instant, Zhu Huayan felt a ticklish sensation spread from her toes throughout her body. Her expression changed drastically, her previously calm and charming face instantly replaced by laughter. Her laughter was as clear as silver bells, with a hint of coquettishness. "Ah! Haha! Xiaochu haha! Xiaochu's Iochu! Don't! I won't tease you anymore! Haha!" Zhu Huayan laughed loudly, her legs tense, wanting to struggle, afraid of kicking Yichu, yet also afraid of falling to the ground. She could only cling to the table, laughing and begging for mercy. Her voice was full of shyness and tenderness. Her fiery, delicate body trembled as she laughed, and glistening tears welled in her eyes. Yichu watched Zhu Huayan's flamboyant yet teary-eyed expression, and a ripple of emotion stirred within him. He stopped, ceasing his teasing. "Ah! Ha ha wa!" Zhu Huayan let out her last laugh, then couldn't help but sob pitifully. Panting, she slumped onto the table, the cat cushioning her fall, her breathing becoming labored. Her legs, which had been crossed and intertwined, slowly relaxed. Yichu gently took her hands and placed them on his lap, looking up at Zhu Huayan. He said helplessly, "I'm sorry, Sister Huayan, I have to leave after I finish my business. Why didn't you stay with me longer?" Zhu Huayan stared at Yichu with a hint of melancholy in her voice. Her earlier laughter seemed to have left her somewhat melancholic. Yichu was about to answer when Zhu Huayan changed the subject, her voice tinged with shyness and expectation. She said softly, "Don't you want to make amends after bullying me?" "Make amends?" Yichu was stunned. Wasn't she the one who seduced him first? He was acting in self-defense, an act of emergency. "Yes. You should make amends." Zhu Huayan propped herself up, the lace of her slightly open collar revealing a hint of cleavage. Her long legs, having regained some strength, rubbed against Yichu again. "I'm a little tired from cultivating. You should massage my feet." "You have to finish massaging them first." Zhu Huayan looked at Yichu firmly, her heaving body and swaying breasts. "Okay. Then I'll massage them for you." Looking at Zhu Huayan's expectant eyes, Yichu's heart softened, and he nodded in agreement. "Then, let's begin." Upon hearing this, a gentle smile appeared on Zhu Huayan's face, warm and bright like the spring sun. She sat obediently in her original spot, gently lifting one jade-like foot. Her ankle was slender, her toes long and flawless, as white and delicate as porcelain, radiating a faint glow. She genuinely wanted to relieve the fatigue from her long hours of cultivation. Yichu nodded slightly, gently twisting her foot with both hands, starting from the toes. His hands glowed with the green light as he used the life-giving technique in conjunction with his massage. Zhu Huayan's toes trembled slightly as she watched Yichu massage her feet, a sweet feeling rising in her heart. Then, a deep blush spread across her face. Looking at her high heels under her seat, she couldn't help but bend down, secretly lift one, and sniff it inside. Only after a careful inspection did she breathe a sigh of relief. When she looked up, Yichu was looking at her with amusement. Zhu Huayan opened her mouth, hesitated, and blushed, leaning forward on the table, looking at the steaming hot tea before her. Her face seemed to be scorched by the rising heat, fiery red, as if it could be pinched until it bled. Ignoring Yichu's gaze, she gently pursed her red lips, softly exhaling a breeze to cool the hot tea. At the same time, her delicate body trembled, occasionally biting her teeth to endure the tingling and itchy sensation. Out of the corner of her eye, she glanced at him. Yichu had already looked away. Zhu Huayan then regrouped and stared at him intently, exhaling fragrant breath as she prepared warm tea for him. Yichu lowered his head, gently massaging the flawless jade feet in his hands. The skin was fair, as delicate as milk. Even more remarkable was that, although Zhu Huayan had cultivated for a long time, her jade feet had no odor whatsoever, but rather carried a faint fragrance. He gently caressed those jade feet, feeling their softness and warmth. He gently kneaded them. His fingertips lightly glided over the jade feet, feeling the touch of the delicate skin. Zhu Huiyan, biting her red lips and slightly squinting her eyes, already showed a hint of intoxication. She seemed to be enjoying Yichu's service. A satisfied smile appeared on her face. She truly enjoyed being cared for and caressed by Yichu, and her envy of her younger sister rose again. Only a quarter of an hour had passed, but it felt like an eternity to Zhu Huiyan. Yichu gently lifted her feet in his hands, indicating she could move them, and whispered, "Sister Huiyan, are you not tired anymore?" "I'm not tired, but it's so comfortable. I want you to keep massaging me." Zhu Huiyan began to tease Yichu again, slightly displeased by his attempt to make her move her legs. She gently struggled with her legs, her eyes filled with seductive allure, and said sweetly, "Or, if you take me, I'll massage your feet and bathe you every day." "Sister Huiyan, stop playing around and let's get down to business." Yichu rolled his eyes and gently moved her feet away. How utterly clueless about romance, Zhu Huiyan, satisfied, pulled her leg back and stepped back into her high heels. "So, tell me, why did you come here on your own initiative for a tryst, wishing everyone a pleasant life?" Chapter 640. You're not going to push me away now, are you? Zhu Huiyan held the hot tea in her hand, gently exhaling its fragrant breath, her eyes fixed on Yichu with hope. She wanted to hear that Yichu missed her. Yichu first straightened his clothes, then coughed twice to clear his throat. Looking at Zhu Huiyan, he hesitated, unsure how to begin. After all, she was Zhu Huqing's sister. Remembering that Zhu Huqing had put Zhu Huiyan in the position, Yichu stopped worrying and decided to get things sorted out first. Under Zhu Huiyan's curious gaze, Yichu explained, "Sister Huiyan, Zhu Huqing asked me to come. Also, according to their arrangements, I'll be coming to see you for the next 2 days. Zhu Huqing asked you to come." Zhu Huiyan was slightly taken aback, a hint of disappointment flashing in her eyes. Yichu's answer didn't satisfy her. But upon hearing the rest of Yichu's words, her purple eyes immediately lit up. She playfully licked her luscious red lips at Yichu. "I didn't expect my little sister to be so generous. Isn't she afraid that her older sister will devour her little man completely, leaving her nothing?" Her eyes were already sizing up Yichu's body, a hint of desire stirring within them. Although Zhu Huiyan's actions and expressions were indeed seductive, the shyness in her eyes was impossible to hide. Moreover, Yichu wasn't afraid of this kind of banter. "What do you mean by devouring completely? Even Liu Erlong couldn't do it, so how could Zhu Huiyan? Even with her clone, it wouldn't work either. On the contrary, it would only excite Yichu even more." Therefore, facing Zhu Huiyan's teasing from afar, Yichu simply rolled his eyes. "Sister Huiyan, please don't joke like that." Seeing this, Zhu Huiyan retracted her tongue, gritting her teeth. She felt a little angry at Yichu's indifference. Just a moment ago, he was so proud and arrogant at her feet, but as soon as she moved away, he lost interest in her. Could it be that her actions didn't suit his taste? Zhu Huiyan promptly suppressed her coquettishness, tightly gripping her warm teacup, taking a small sip to ease her embarrassment. She asked again, "Speaking of which, why are you coming to see me tomorrow and the day after? Want some alone time?" "Yes," Yichu nodded, staring at Zhu Huiyan. He also felt a little uncomfortable. After all, the big, cuddly cat in front of him and the little cat at home were a pair of exquisite cat girl sisters, the kind with a love-hate relationship. Zhu Huiyan was stunned again. She stared at Yichu in disbelief, even leaning over the table, just to get closer to him. "Xiao, you're not deliberately teasing your sister, are you? Does Sister Huiyan think that's possible?" Yichu looked at the big cat pressed against the table, tightly bound by her lace lingerie, seemingly about to jump out, and slowly averted his gaze. At this moment, Zhu Huiyan had no time to seduce Yichu. Her eyes, face, and heart were overflowing with joy. Giggle, she couldn't help but giggle, straightening up and laughing uncontrollably, her body trembling like a cat dancing, her eyes even glistening with tears. This reaction left Yichu somewhat at a loss. "Sister Huiyan, isn't this a bit unnecessary? I want to." Zhu Huiyan tossed her neat short hair back. She rested her elbows on the table, her eyes glazed, and complained irritably, "Xiao, you really are a bit naughty." Yichu looked at her, puzzled. Zhu Huiyan, holding her teacup, swayed her hips and gracefully approached Yichu. She towered over him, her voluptuous body pressing against him. Yichu, not wanting his head to be trapped, could only lean back. "Sister Huiyan." Zhu Huiyan bent over, Her breasts pressed against Yichu's chest, her gaze gentle and tender, fixed on him, feeling his breath, his heartbeat, his warmth. The blush on her face deepened. "Xiaochu, if you really don't want to come, will you come if Zhu Qing calls you?" she said wistfully. Yichu reached out and grabbed Zhu Huayan's waist, which was about to bend down. This was really hard to say. PFFT, haha. Zhu Huayan seemed to sense Yichu's uncertainty. She teased him with a coquettish laugh. "However, with your personality, it's hard to say. After all, you're not exactly a macho type. Well, how should I put it? You're all a bit soft-hearted despite your strong body, right?" Zhu Huayan pressed closer, her fragrant breath brushing against Yichu's face, making him feel restless. Yichu didn't speak. After all, what Zhu Huayan said was somewhat plausible. He couldn't guarantee he wouldn't be distracted. "Looks like I was right." Zhu Huayan hugged Yichu's neck, a hint of disappointment in her smile. "Although I'm not sure if it's your own idea, at least I'm sitting in your lap now, and you won't push me away, right?" With that, Zhu Huayan swayed her firm, full buttocks and sat down in Yichu's lap. His suddenly enveloped in a gentle softness, Yichu couldn't help but gasp. Zhu Huayan also gritted her teeth, unable to suppress a soft moan. Even though she was almost pushed away, she remained unmoved, simply holding Yichu's warm body tightly. She said plaintively, "Xiaochu, hold me. Give me an answer, Sisters Huayan, I'm already holding you." Yichu felt a burning heat against his cheek. His hands had already wrapped around her waist a moment Zhu Huayan sat down and touched his burning heat. "Not enough, hold me tighter." Zhu Huayan gently pursed Yichu's earlobe, her voice low and slightly hoarse, tinged with a hint of tears. Yichu took a deep breath, tightly embracing Zhu Huayan's delicate body. Her full, alluring curves shifted under the pressure, sending forth a soft, supple sensation. Zhu Huayan breathed out warm air, feeling Yichu's pounding heart and burning heat. A look of satisfaction appeared in her eyes, her body trembling with each beat of his heart. A long silence filled the secret room. The tea Zhu Huayan was still holding had gone cold. "Sisters Huayan, I should go now. I'll come back to keep you company tomorrow." Yichu held the delicate body in his arms, his previously pounding body gradually adjusting to the pressure. Zhu Huayan's face flushed, her body becoming slightly warm and moist. Hearing Yichu's voice, she nodded as if in a dream, emitting a soft, nasal sound. Then Yichu released her soft waist, reached out and grasped Zhu Huayan's soft arms, gently untying them. Zhu Huayan released Yichu, sat in his lap, took a small sip of her tea, and pursed her lips, which glistened with a crimson sheen. Looking up at Yichu, she smiled gently, her jade-like fingers lightly stroking his face and chest, and whispered softly, "How about having some tea before you go?" Yichu nodded, not refusing. His throat was indeed a little dry. Wishing everyone a pleasant life. Chapter 641, A gentle and refined embrace. Seeing Yichu agree, Zhu Huayan immediately smiled and handed the teacup to him. Just as Yichu was about to lean forward and sip the tea, Zhu Huayan quickly withdrew her hand, placing the cup below her narrow chest. Wisps of steam rose onto her black lace top, revealing glimpses of her snow-white cleavage. Yichu, with his keen eyesight, could clearly see it. Zhu Huayan placed her hand on the back of Yichu's head, smiling seductively. "Little Chu, drink." Seeing the teacup's position becoming increasingly precarious, Yichu's lips twitched slightly. "Sisters Huayan." Before Yichu could say anything, Zhu Huayan's hand on the back of his head tightened, pressing Yichu towards the teacup. She wrapped one arm around Yichu's neck, the other holding the teacup to her cleavage. Yichu's breath and the lingering warmth of the tea warmed Zhu Huayan's heart slurp. In this situation, Yichu didn't refuse. He embraced Zhu Huayan's slender, delicate body, bit the porcelain cup, and took a small sip. Zhu Huayan adjusted her body and poured the entire cup of tea into Yichu's mouth. At the same time, Yichu suddenly felt a little short of breath, his handsome face seemingly trapped. While drinking the tea, he washed his face. He finished the tea. Zhu Huayan placed the cup on the table, held Yichu's head in her arms, and wiped his mouth. "Ugh, Sisters Huayan." Yichu's muffled voice came from Zhu Huayan's arms, his hands kneading her slender waist, unable to resist using some force. Zhu Huayan didn't feel pain, but it was very itchy. It took a lot of effort for Yichu to extricate himself from that incredibly soft and continuous embrace. "Sisters Huayan, I really should go." "Okay, Xiaoqiu, I'll wait for you here tomorrow." Zhu Huiyan didn't linger. She hugged Yichu, her long, wet legs pressed together, and offered him a passionate kiss with her red lips. Yichu watched, held the kiss briefly, and then disappeared into the dimly lit room. Only Zhu Huiyan remained, a foolish smile on her face, her red lips moving as if savoring Yichu's taste. Yuxun, top floor. When Yichu appeared in Tang Yuhu's room, his eyes immediately went to the bed. When he left, the room should have been dark, but now it was brightly lit. He knew without a doubt that Tang Yuhu had woken up. He looked up. What came into view was Tang Yuhu, wearing a loose, pale yellow silk nightgown, who seemed to have just woken up. Her once pale gray-blue hair was now casually draped behind her head, and her noble face still held a hint of drowsiness, but upon seeing Yichu, it was filled with love and affection. "Chu," Tang Yuhu said gently, extending her hands towards Yichu, slightly open. The collar of her robe was slightly open, seemingly unable to linger on her smooth, fragrant shoulders, revealing her smooth, luminous shoulders and her rounded breasts, which were also partially covered. Under the lamplight, her delicate body appeared even more rounded and full. "Yuhu, you're awake." Yichu quickly stepped forward, sat on the edge of the bed, and gently lifted Tang Yuhu's slipped clothes. Even through the silk, the smoothness of her fragrant shoulders still stirred his heart, and the light, elegant scent of Tang Yuhu lingered in his nostrils, irresistible. Tang Yuhu nodded slightly, hugging Yichu and leaning against his shoulder. The fragrance of another girl on Yichu's body naturally couldn't escape her notice, being a woman herself. She leaned in and gently kissed Yichu, caressing his body as she asked, "Which sister did you go to see?" Yichu hesitated for a moment, then, holding Tang Yuhu and inhaling the fragrance of her hair, truthfully replied, "Zhu Qing's older sister, Zhu Huiyan, the eldest daughter of the Zhu family." Yichu wouldn't hide anything from Tang Yuhu's personality. She was rational and gentle, arguably the most perfect candidate for a first wife in feudal times. Her ability to manage Yuxun so successfully in the capital was evident. Zhu Qing's older sister, Tang Yuhu was slightly surprised, curious about when Yichu had become involved with her. Without saying much, she calmly asked, "Does Zhu Qing know?" "Of course she knows." Yichu held Tang Yuhu, gently caressing her, holding her delicate body, kneading and shaping it in his hands, pinching and gently squeezing her buttocks. Tang Yuhu clutched Yichu's clothes, letting out soft moans, her eyes lowered as she looked at the heat pack pressed against her stomach, a hint of shyness in her eyes. She said gently, "It's getting late, Chu, let's rest early." "Okay," Yichu nodded, releasing the soft flesh in his hands. Tang Yuhu gently unbuttoned Yichu's collar and removed his coat. Soon, Yichu laid down in bed. Tang Yuhu, her face flushed, looked at her hands, feeling the warmth she had just felt. Looking down at her full, shapely figure, she wrapped her arms around herself, gently lifting her rounded breasts, her two white, full breasts seeming to leap out from her loose nightgown. "Yuhu," Yichu looked up curiously at Tang Yuhu, who was still sitting on the bed. Tang Yuhu pursed her red lips, looking at her own narrow-mindedness, as if she had made a decision. Even if she couldn't have a deep, intimate conversation with Yichu right now, she could still put him in a corner of the room and share her innermost feelings. Hugging herself, Tang Yuhu's face was flushed, and she said softly, "Chu, can you get me the stockings?" "Huh?" Yichu was a little confused, but still reached out from the pile of clothes by the bed, pushed aside the sexy lingerie, and took out the flesh-colored stockings, handing them to Tang Yuhu. "Yuhu, should I turn off the light?" "Yes, go ahead." Tang Yuhu nodded, pulled her stockings longer, put them behind her head, gathered her hair, and used the stockings to tie her hair up. Poof, Yichu had already turned off the light. He reached out to hug Tang Yuhu and lay her down on the bed to share a pillow with her. He grasped only a large, smooth, and soft object, examining it briefly. It was merely Tang Yuhu's nightgown. In the darkness, Yichu paused, suddenly wanting to side up to search, but froze mid-motion. He felt a sharp yet unfamiliar threat, and a constricting pressure. Like gentle ripples, it washed over Yichu. Yichu lay alone on the bed, exhaling a long, warm breath, his hands clutching the blanket around his stomach, gently stroking it. In the dead of night, the entire Yuxun was quiet. Yichu could feel heavy breathing, the warm, fragrant breeze, and that warm, jade-like sensation enveloping him. Yichu, his eyes half closed and body tense, suddenly opened them, sitting up as if about to leap out of his skin. He opened his eyes, sat up, tightly hugged the blanket, bent over and pressed his back several times, letting out a long sigh. Wishing everyone a pleasant life. Chapter 642 Zhu Zhuking's invitation into the trap. In the morning, Yichu opened his eyes, feeling refreshed. Last night, if she hadn't completely parried Yichu's attacks, remaining vigilant and leaving no room for error, Tang Yuhu might have ended up like Yu Lingling that night, nestled in Yichu's arms without a blanket. Tang Yuhu was still wearing that loose silk nightgown, so loose it could easily slip off, the collar slightly open from her sleep. When Yichu woke up, he nestled in Tang Yuhu's arms like a child, opening his eyes to see the snow-white ditch before him. Inhaling the fragrance of Tang Yuhu, the master of Yuxuan Pavilion, Yichu gently exhaled warm breath and ate 2 peanuts and a soft bread for his breakfast. Tang Yuhu was already awake, her delicate, radiant face still carrying a touch of languid, alluring charm. The warmth and slippery touch in her arms made her want to hold her little man tighter. Chu came a soft, alluring moan, tinged with drowsiness. Yichu, having finished eating, lingered a while before washing his face before finally looking up. He gazed at Tang Yuhu's shy expression, embracing her voluptuous body. His arms moved, kneading and shaping her soft, white flesh, its rhythm mirroring his heartbeat. Yuhu, I should go, Tang Yuhu nestled gently in Yichu's arms, her body shifting, slowly pushing against his chest, her soft, yielding touches offering him comfort and pleasure. Her voice was gentle, clear yet regal. Chu, let me help you get dressed, then I'll trouble you, madam. Tang Yuhu supported her lithe body with one hand, pulling up the loose silk robe that revealed most of her figure. Kneeling by the bed, her pert, shapely buttocks formed a peak, curving down from her tailbone to her slender waist, outlining her graceful, soft lines. The continuous peaks, propelled by gravity, rose towards the ground, perfectly showcasing her full figure. It was tempting to shove her forward. Yichu shook his head, withdrawing his hand from covering her buttocks, instead putting his arm around Tang Yuhu's waist and lifting her up. Otherwise, he was truly afraid that, first thing in the morning, this carnivore would take advantage of this moment and force his way in. Back at Blue Tyrant Academy, Yichu appeared on the roof and sat down, breathing heavily. Sure enough, it was still the noble woman like Yuhu and the mature woman like Liu Erlong who possessed the most fatal attraction. As if hearing a sound, Xiao Wu, who had just been yawning, immediately tried to leap onto the roof to meet her Xiaochu. But this time, Zhu Zhuking, usually unassuming, moved even faster than Xiao Wu. She even flicked out her shadow spider spear, retracting it mid-air in one step, and sat down in Yichu's lap. Zhuking, Yichu's expression changed slightly as he watched this. He couldn't help but want to warn Zhuking, especially since it was early morning and she had just been teased. But Zhu Zhuking was already falling towards him. Yichu could only spread his arms to absorb much of the impact, preventing her from hitting her head. Holding Zhu Zhuking's delicate body, he immediately felt a soft, sinking sensation in his hands. Zhu Zhuking sat in Yichu's lap. Her expression instantly changed, a flash of pain crossing her face. Her body convulsed, her face flushed red, and she couldn't help but cry out. AWW, tears welled up in Zhu Zhuking's eyes as she quickly raised her hand to cover her open cherry-like mouth. Hiss. Yichu felt as if a tight band had been put around his head, causing him to gasp sharply. He held Zhu Zhuking's delicate body tightly, as if trying to merge her into his own bones, pressing her against his chest. Zhu Zhuking trembled, clutching her mouth tightly, letting out moans that sounded like a mixture of pain and excitement. Ah! Zhuking, it was Sister Xiao who jumped first. Xiao landed on the roof, having been beaten to it by Zhu Zhuking, and couldn't help but pout and complain. But Zhu Zhuking's face was flushed, and she had no time to pay attention to her. Yichu also shivered a few times, temporarily clearing the shock from his mind. Although he wasn't injured, he needed to change his clothes. Zhu Zhuking, however, was seriously injured. The sudden trap had caught Zhu Zhuking completely off guard, causing her to break free of her composure and leak out a significant amount of her long-stored power. Husband Zhu Zhuking gritted her teeth. She only wanted to ask about her sister. Who knew Yichu possessed such a deadly weapon? He almost gave up all his strength. Xiao Wu, Yichu looked up at Xiao Wu with a hint of tenderness in his eyes. Under Yichu's gaze, Xiao Wu's round, large, crimson eyes couldn't help but shimmer, and she knelt down, her face flushed as she looked at Yichu. It was an expression that only appeared when the two of them were alone, with Yichu pressing her down and being inseparable from her. Whoosh! Douluo grabbed Yilingling and Ningrongrong and jumped onto the roof. You brat, why are you on the roof as soon as you get back today? Ningrongrong was quite unhappy about this. Did he think she was a support-type soul master and couldn't move as fast as them? Wrong. I'm just a little hot, Yichu replied hesitantly. Looking at Zuzuking, who seemed to have lost half her soul and whose eyes were glazed over, Douluo frowned and looked at Yichu and Zuzuking strangely. A purple light flashed in her eyes. With the enhancement of his purple demon eyes, Douluo easily spotted the wisps of moisture. A slight smile played on his lips. He released Yilingling and Ningrongrong, walked towards Xiao Wu, and hooked his arm around her shoulder. He smiled and said, Xiao Wu, Zuqing is rarely so eager to throw herself into my arms. Maybe she has something urgent to tell her husband, Well, it seems so. Xiao Wu's pink rabbit ears twitched slightly, and she understood that Douluo was telling the truth. This was the first time Zuzuqing had been so anxious. Am I right, husband? And Zuqing, my little sister, Douluo smiled as he looked at Yichu and the dazed Zuzuqing in his arms. Yes, Zuzuqing nodded slightly, biting her red lips, and uttered a soft, charming voice. Yichu also nodded, chuckling awkwardly. Zuqing does have something to say to me. You two cultivate here first, I'll take Zuqing inside to talk, before Yichu could leave with Zuzuqing. Xiaolan, who had just jumped up, couldn't help but ask, Sister Zuqing, what's wrong? You don't seem to be feeling well. With me here, she'll be fine. Erlong, take them to cultivate. Yichu hurriedly left them behind, his eyes flashing with divine power, and quickly disappeared from the rooftop. When he reappeared, he was already in Zuzuqing's room. Liu Erlong and Bai Chengxiang, who had just climbed onto the roof, looked at each other, confused about what had happened. Wishing everyone a happy life. Chapter 643. Too high, too hasty, and meets a hard nut. What happened? Bai Chengxiang was confused, clutching the ends of her pigtails, completely bewildered. Yilingling, however, had already noticed something and was staring at the spot where Yichu had just sat, her face flushed. Pfft haha, Douluo chuckled. Swaying her slender waist, she went to where Yichu had been and sat down beside him. Her delicate hand extended a jade-like finger, gently stroking the damp beam, her face red as she said, Sister Zuqing jumped too high and sat down too hastily, bumping into something hard. Hun Qiushan, Jiangzhu, and the other girls were bewildered. Liu Erlong and Xiao Wu, however, blushed furiously. Ningrongrong had just witnessed how high Zuzuqing had jumped. Gulp, she swallowed hard, asking with concern, is Zuqing alright? She should be. Oh, Douluo was about to answer when some indescribable sounds came from Zuzuqing's room. Ningrongrong blushed and spat. Alright, now I know that even nothing can turn into something. It's not a big deal, it's just that she probably can't go to the cultivation session this morning, Douluo said with a sly smile, her eyes narrowed. The girls, having figured out what had happened, all had unusually flushed faces. On the roof, several snow lotuses seemed to stand, their petals tinged with crimson. Xiaolan also really doesn't want to cultivate. Xiaolan pinched her little skirt and pouted. Ahem, Liu Erlong coughed twice, her face red. Alright, everyone, let's hurry up and cultivate, the purple energy is already overflowing. Speaking of which, did Zuqing get a good deal? Today seems to be the exclusive time for that sister we've never met, that Zuqing added. Right. Ningrongrong sat cross-legged on the ground and took out a handkerchief to wipe the marks on the roof clean. Then Zuqing is probably going to talk to her husband about that sister, Liu Erlong guessed as he sat cross-legged. Very likely, Xiao Wu nodded. Unlike the chattering of the women on the rooftop, Zuzuqing's boudoir was quiet. She was immersed in a sea of song, as if performing a one-woman show. Her voice was melodious and graceful, sometimes high-pitched and passionate, sometimes low and gentle, as if telling the story of her inner joys and sorrows. At this moment, Zuzuqing was hunched over, her hands firmly against the bathroom wall. Her delicate body appeared even more alluring under the light. Her chest swayed gently with her breath, seemingly containing endless charm. She gritted her teeth, closed her eyes tightly, her face flushed, her breathing erratic, desperately trying to suppress the powerful force within her. The warm energy within her surged like a wild beast through her meridians. Zuzuqing felt an indescribable heat. She couldn't help but lower one hand to cover her cherry-like mouth, which was about to let out a cat-like cry. Her eyes shone with a determined yet hazy light. While changing clothes, she was unexpectedly attacked and stabbed. The force suddenly invaded her body, causing her to scream, which Ningrongrong and the others heard. Suddenly, several shadow spider spears emerged from behind Zhu Xiuqing, moving like living things and quickly supporting themselves on the walls and floor. Her feet left the ground, and she seemed to be lifted by a powerful force, swinging in the air with crackling sounds from the violent energy surging within her. Time slowly passed, and Zhu Xiuqing didn't know how many times she had endured the impact of the force within her body. In this dazed state, the spirit rings beneath Zhu Xiuqing's feet suddenly lit up, and her martial spirit quickly possessed her. 6 clones appeared around her one after another, pouncing and grabbing at the powerful force. Zhu Xiuqing gritted her teeth and slowly slid to the ground, gaining a chance to catch her breath, but soon, the clones were defeated, and Zhu Xiuqing's main body couldn't help but tremble frequently. Time passed, and the purple aura on the horizon gradually dissipated, as if gently wiped away by an invisible giant hand. Xiao Wu, Ningrongrong, and the others stood in the courtyard, their brows furrowed with worry. They were anxious, wondering when Zhu Xiuqing's process of expelling dampness from her body would end. However, they also knew that this was not something Zhu Xiuqing could control alone, and they could only wait and see. Chirp! Liu Erlong and the other girls listened to the sounds of bird song and the splashing of clear spring water coming from inside and outside the house, from the woods and the bridge. They shook their heads helplessly and began to bustle about preparing a sumptuous breakfast. The clatter of pots and pans and the crackling of firewood in the kitchen created a harmonious scene. When breakfast was ready, the lively sounds still filled the air, though slightly less intense than before. Ningrongrong rubbed her ears and muttered, "Sister Erlong, are we still waiting for Xiuqing? I'm afraid she can't hold on any longer, and that guy must be full by now, right?" Liu Erlong and Du Yan didn't look much better. "Then let's save a portion for our husband and eat first." "That's fine." Yi Lingling lowered her eyes. She already knew clearly that what Du Yan had taught her couldn't satisfy Yichu at all. It wasn't until they finished breakfast, cleaned the kitchen, and were preparing to leave for cultivation that Yichu finished washing up and came out of his room, his steps light. Facing Liu Erlong and the others' gazes, he gave a slight, unsmiling smile. "How, Erlong, wrong, let's go. It's time to go to the 7 treasure glazed tile school for cultivation." With that, Yichu stepped forward and picked Xiao Wu up in his arms, gently kissing her. Xiao Wu hugged Yichu's neck, asking with concern, "Xiao Chu, is Xiuqing alright?" "She's fine, just need some rest." Yichu already knew what Xiuqing wanted to say to him after entering the room. Therefore, he took it upon himself to find a more efficient way to communicate. "Husband, there's still some food left in the kitchen. Why don't we eat it before going to the 7 treasure glazed tile school?" Liu Erlong suggested. "No need. Skipping a meal once in a while isn't a big deal, and besides, I'm not hungry right now." Yichu shook his head. The women exchanged glances and rolled their eyes. They didn't say anything more and quickly moved closer to Yichu. A flash of bloodlust appeared in Yichu's eyes. Space twisted, and he disappeared from the Blue Tyrant Academy. In the entire courtyard, only the weak, long breaths could be heard from Zhu Xiuqing's room. The morning's cultivation ended. At noon, Yichu didn't go to the Star Luo Empire but returned to the Blue Tyrant Academy first. Although he knew what Zhu Xiuqing wanted to talk to him about. But asking a little more questions isn't a bad thing. It also gives you a chance to properly care for the kitten Squeak. Yichu opened the door, carrying the delicacies he brought back from the 7 treasure glazed tile school. Wishing everyone a pleasant life. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 644 The Future Battlefield is Yichu. Yichu entered the room. The window was open, and the lingering scent of love still lingered within. The sound of water in the bathroom had just stopped. "Who?" A cold voice came from the bathroom. "Xiuqing, it's me," Yichu responded softly, placing the food on the table. "Husband." Xiuqing's voice was somewhat surprised and frightened, then she quickly said, "Husband, don't come in, I'm already finished washing. Wait for me." Yichu paused slightly, a forced smile playing on his lips. He wasn't about to barge in again and ambush her from behind, giving her a fatal blow. "Xiuqing, don't rush." Erlong and the others are reading at the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. I came back to bring you food and chat with you, Clang. Before Yichu could finish speaking, Zuzu Qing rushed out of the bathroom, her cheeks flushed, her eyes glazed. The morning's shuck and the sweltering steam had left her somewhat dazed. She bit her lower lip, lowered her eyes, and shyly covered her body with her slender fingers. Her wet, black hair clung to her cheeks, making her even more alluring. Her face, though still somewhat childlike, now appeared captivatingly charming. Her eyes, like blooming violets, glisten with the glistening water droplets, utterly seductive. Her slender, delicate eyebrows added to her gentle and graceful air. She wore a purple bathrobe, the loose fabric subtly revealing her curvaceous figure, its curves undulating and exuding charm. Water droplets slowly slid down her exposed, long legs. Zhu Qing, don't you know that rushing out like this, all disheveled and barely concealed, is even more alluring? Yichu gazed at Zuzu Qing's tall, fiery figure, a hint of amazement flashing in his eyes. He couldn't help but tease her. Being naked is even more dangerous? Zuzu Qing looked at Yichu shyly, still somewhat wary, leaning against the doorframe behind her, her slightly weak legs already pressed together. Zhu Qing, is there any need to be so guarded around me? Yichu rolled his eyes. He was indeed quite irritable that morning, but after the 7 cats killed with a gun battle, he had vented most of it. I didn't want to, but you were too amazing. Zhu's Qing bit her red lips, her whole body trembling and weak as she recalled the scene of that violent power surging wildly within her. Her face, her snow-white neck, and even her delicate collarbone were all flush pink. Who told you to sit on me so early in the morning, and jump so high and so hard? Yichu smiled teasingly, opening the food box he was carrying. I just wanted to talk to you about my sister. Who knew you'd get so cocky? Zhu's Qing's face flushed red as she thought about it, her heart trembling, and she felt a lingering fear. She almost died there. Okay, my bad, Yichu shrugged, having already set out the food, and sat down. Hurry up and get ready, the food's getting cold. Do you want me to help you dry off? No need. Zhu's Qing shook her head and quickly walked behind the screen with small steps. There were rustling sounds coming from inside. A short while later, Zhu's Qing, dressed neatly, emerged from behind the screen. Husband, aren't you going to see my sister? I just came back to see you. By the way, wouldn't you be happy if I went later? I would be happy, but my sister would resent you. I don't think so. Yichu stroked his chin. Of course she would. She just doesn't say anything. Zhu's Qing rolled her eyes, blushing as she sat down beside Yichu. Yichu gently pushed the already served rice and bone broth in front of Zhu's Qing. Resting his chin on his hand, he asked, So, Zhu Qing, are you also resentful of me? Zhu's Qing picked up her chopsticks, hesitated for a moment, and shook her head slightly. She looked up at him earnestly. Her red lips parted slightly. No, there's no superfluous emotion, only relief. With that, Zhu's Qing leaned forward and gently pressed her red lips to Yichu's cheek. Yichu was slightly taken aback, a slight smile playing on his lips. He turned and stared at her silently. You should go now, I don't have much to tell you. Just report back to me when you're done. Zhu's Qing looked at Yichu with a slight smile. A long-absent competitive glint flashed in her eyes. Her war with her sister, Zhu's Huayan, wasn't over yet. The next battlefield might be Yichu. Zhu's Qing was confident she could beat her, even crush her. Whatever Zhu's Huayan gave Yichu, she would give Yichu the same, even more, and something more extravagant. Report back to you. Yichu raised an eyebrow, a hint of unease in his eyes. He really didn't share his private affairs with other women with his own woman, let alone with Zhu's Qing's sister. Yes, consider it compensation for this morning, Zhu's Qing said softly, her face flushed. All right, Yichu scratched his head, admitting he had been a bit rough this morning. Then I'll go now. Erlong and the others will be back soon after they finish their meal. Zhu's Qing nodded slightly. She kissed Yichu goodbye and watched him leave her sight. Douluo Empire, Zhu family, secret chamber. Yichu's figure slowly appeared from an invisible spatial vortex in a distorted form. Sensing that familiar aura, Zhu's Huayan, who had been sitting at the table, idly lying on the surface, opened her eyes. Her purple eyes shone brightly. Whoosh! She quickly rushed to Yichu's side, trying to hug him tightly. Thud! A muffled sound, the sound of soft breasts colliding with Yichu's flesh through his clothes. The huge bounce made Yichu's body sway. Before Yichu could regain his footing, a pair of slender arms wrapped around his waist, white as snow, shapely and strong, holding him tightly. Leaning against that warm, delicate body, he felt a distinct sense of sinking in. A delicate, refreshing fragrance lingered around his nose. Zhu's Huayan held Yichu tightly, tilting her red lips upwards and breathing on him. "Little Chu, you're finally here. I've been waiting for you for so long, sisters Huayan." Yichu snapped out of his daze and gently hugged Zhu's Huayan. Gurgled just as Yichu opened his mouth, a rumbling sound came from Zhu's Huayan's stomach. Yichu was stunned, looking down at the blushing Zhu's Huayan. "Sisters Huayan, how long have you been waiting here? Aren't you going to get something to eat? I was just afraid you wouldn't see me when you got here." Zhu's Huayan blushed and glared at Yichu. "You said yourself yesterday that you might come this morning, and I got up early, picked out my clothes, and got ready to wait for you, but I didn't even see a trace of you." After hearing Zhu's Huayan's words, Yichu noticed that Zhu's Huayan had changed out of her leather jacket and pants. Wishing everyone a happy life. Chapter 645 Expressions only found in yellow books. Zhu's Huayan stared at Yichu with a resentful look in her eyes. Yichu was also looking at her. At this moment, Zhu's Huayan was wearing a black V-neck bodycon dress. Her rounded shoulders and delicate collarbones radiated an alluring glow even in this secluded room. The tight bodycon dress perfectly showcased her graceful figure, which was still a bit immature. She wore high-end jewelry around her neck, which, combined with her bare, fair shoulders, looked simple yet elegant. Her waist was slender, her breasts full, and her hips shapely. Her short, slightly wavy hair added to her chicken-capable look. Her long, straight legs were encased in flesh-colored stockings. The black high heels she wore complemented her mature and powerful aura. After her gaze swept over Yichu, it returned to the deep, bottomless V-neck of her dress. Zhu's Huayan's red lips parted slightly, and she lifted one of her delicate, beautiful legs, wrapping it around Yichu's waist and gently rubbing it against him. She exhaled seductively. "How is it? Pretty, isn't it?" "Very pretty," Yichu nodded seriously. "PFFT, little Chu, you're so cute." Being both sexy and serious, Zhu's Huayan leaned against Yichu, giggling as her voluptuous body bounced unintentionally against him. Her slender fingers lifted Yichu's chin, ready to tease him. But a sound from her stomach broke the atmosphere. Gurgle gurgle PFFT, haha. Yichu couldn't help but chuckle, grabbing the soft thigh wrapped around his waist and setting it down. "Sisters Huayan, how long have you been waiting here? You haven't left since this morning, have you?" Zhu's Huayan's face burned. The resentment in her eyes deepened, and she glared at Yichu. "What do you think? I'm sorry, sisters Huayan. Yichu's smile faded, and he swallowed the words he wanted to say, pinching Zhu's Huayan's slender waist. If Zhu's Huayan knew that he hadn't come because he was recklessly fighting with Zhu's Huking, she would probably cause even more trouble. "It's okay, as long as you came," Zhu's Huayan chuckled, lightly tiptoeing and sticking her tongue out at Yichu. Now that things had come to this, Yichu naturally wouldn't be coy anymore. He captured those slightly parted red lips, feeling the smoothness swirling against his cheek. He hugged the delicate body in his arms tightly, pressing it against his chest, gently wriggling. He felt the continuous warmth and grandeur. Zhu's Huayan, who hadn't kissed much before, naturally couldn't compare to Yichu's skill. The strange smoothness and touch in his mouth, and the strong, unusual scent, caused her mind to go blank for a moment. For so long, whether intentional or not, mostly intentional, she and Yichu occasionally had some rather ambiguous contact. When faced with her seduction, Yichu would either restrain himself, only making the first move, or flee in a disheveled state. This passionate kiss from Yichu was something Zhu's Huayan had never experienced before. Her breathing became rapid and erratic, a strong feeling of suffocation washing over her, but feeling Yichu's gentle caresses and sweet kisses, she couldn't bear to let go. The feeling of suffocation made her involuntarily raise her soft hand and grab Yichu's clothes. Her violet-like eyes, as if veiled with mist, gazed at Yichu's eyes, which held a hint of aggression yet tenderness. Unconsciously, she narrowed her eyes and tried her best to meet his gaze, standing on tiptoe, her throat bobbing. A naive response, rapid breathing. Yichu gently released her waist, making her breathing much smoother. Even in the face of such a commotion, her hands remained obedient and didn't move. Zhu's Huayan's breathing eased slightly. She placed her feet on Yichu's insteps and tried to offer her lips, her body soft and yielding against him, unwilling to let go. Yichu gently savored and guided her. The slightly mellow, sweet fruit wine was rich and fragrant, warming and moistening. Zhu's Huayan quickly became dizzy. Yichu's kiss was long. Zhu's Huayan, experiencing this for the first time, was completely unable to resist. Her purple eyes rolled slightly, her body limp, as if about to collapse. She made muffled sounds from her mouth and nose, as if pleading for help. Yichu lifted his head, stopping just in time. Zhu's Huayan seemed reborn, breathing heavily with her mouth open, her tongue unconsciously sticking out and waving. Her mind was hazy, she only cared about holding on to her man tightly, refusing to let go. Immersed in Yichu's embrace, a glistening drool hung at the corner of her mouth. She revealed a captivating, infatuated expression, the kind only seen in adult films. If Yichu hadn't been holding her, she might have collapsed to the ground. Under this stimulation, Zhu's Huayan's stomach seemed to calm down, not disrupting the ambiguous atmosphere. Yichu, holding Zhu's Huayan, glanced around the secret room. Sisters Huayan, let me take you to get something to eat. Zhu's Huayan's voice was sweet and tearful, seemingly capable of drawing silken threads to stir the heart. Receiving Zhu's Huayan's response, Yichu activated his divine power, and the two figures disappeared from the secret room. Divine power space. Yichu didn't leave immediately, but waited for Zhu's Huayan to recover. Xiao, between me and Zhu Qing, who's prettier? Who's sweeter? Zhu's Huayan, leaning against Yichu's chest, suddenly asked him this question. Yichu was taken aback. Helplessly, he said, Sisters Huayan, you two are different, that's precisely why it's easy to tell the difference. Zhu's Huayan, like a kitten, wriggled in Yichu's arms, tightly hugging his neck, wanting to show him her milky white flesh. Yichu pulled away Zhu's Huayan, who was about to bury herself in him, and explained, Sisters Huayan, what I mean is that you're different types, it's not good to compare you. You're both beautiful, I like you both, you little Chu, you really are a scumbag. You just finished tasting me and you can't even say something nice to coax me. Zhu's Huayan raised her head, placing Yichu's hand inside her narrow chest. Knowing Yichu, she didn't make things too difficult. Blushing and smiling, she said, I'll give you another chance. Who's softer, me or Zhuking? Zhu's Huayan was absolutely confident about this question. No matter what Zhuking surpassed her in, she would always be superior to Zhuking in these two soft mounts. Feeling Yichu's unconscious manipulation, Zhu's Huayan's face revealed a confident smile. Yichu paused slightly, finding it hard to lie about such an obvious problem. Squeezing his conscience, Yichu chuckled awkwardly. In this area, of course, Sisters Huayan is better. PFFT, haha. Xiao, looks like you're not so stubborn after all. Zhu's Huayan giggled, rubbing Yichu's face gently for a moment, making it hard for him to breathe. Alright, Sisters Huayan, your stomach's growling again. Let's find somewhere to eat. Okay, whatever you say, wishing everyone a happy life. Chapter 646. The land in Xingluo is quite good. Yichu, accompanied by the sexy and fiery Zhu's Huayan, arrived at a restaurant in Hanhei City where he had previously dined with Jinring Su. The appearance of Zhu's Huayan and Yichu naturally attracted everyone's attention. After all, the handsome man and beautiful woman drew admiring glances from men, women, and children on the street. Before leaving the divine might space, Zhu's Huayan had changed into a set of stockings. Her passionate kiss with Yichu had been unbearable, leaving her feeling warm and fuzzy. Changing into something a little more conservative was quite reasonable. Black cotton stockings, a V-neck pencil skirt, and a silk scarf covering her bare shoulders and the shallow cleavage peeking out from her chest, all were completely concealed. To put it bluntly, even if she was provocative, she would only flirt with Yichu, the man she had chosen. She would never allow anyone else to see or touch what only Yichu could. Smelling the salty scent of the sea and listening to the faint sound of the waves, Zhu's Huayan felt a sense of novelty. Clinging to Yichu's arm, she sank into the ditch, wishing she could melt into his body. Xiao, you seem to know this place quite well? How many women have you been here with? It seems like almost all of them have come here with me, right? Yichu raised an eyebrow. Speaking of which, the boats he bought were all destroyed by the waves during his battle with Liu Erlong. All of them? You really treat them all the same. Zhu's Huayan pouted. This kind of fixed itinerary inevitably gave off a somewhat perfunctory feeling. Yichu shook his head helplessly. Then where does Sisters Huayan want to go? I'll go with you. Zhu's Huayan leaned on Yichu's shoulder, hesitated for a moment, then whispered shyly in Yichu's ear, "How about in my secret room? We can play in the water together. This lowly servant will give my lord a good wash, inside and out." Up, Yichu's lips twitched slightly, and a few black lines flashed across his forehead. Wasn't this just trapping him in that bath? As Zhu Huayan spoke, her body went limp first. Her thoughts were simple: give herself to Yichu first, and that way, no matter what happened later, with Yichu's personality, she could rest easy. Besides, if anything happened to her, she could die without regrets. At least, she would have given herself properly to her man and enjoyed the pleasures of love. Sisters Huayan, putting everything else aside, if I agree and you lose your virginity, won't that Davis find out? Yichu was naturally tempted, but while he had promised to remain chaste on the day of his engagement to Ning Rongrong, the more important thing was that he was afraid of being discovered. Hearing Yichu mention Davis, Zhu Huayan instantly calmed down. That lunatic was watching her closely, even able to see her soul rings. Perhaps when Yichu had messed her up and she was already a wife, that lunatic would actually find out something. That would be truly terrible. The two future empresses, specially provided by the royal family and prearranged, and sisters at that, would both be snatched away by one person. Now, the next Douluo emperor's green hat is practically a done deal. Even if Davis doesn't pursue it, the royal family certainly won't let it go easily, and the Zhu family might even be implicated. HMPH. Then I'll wait until my little man is invincible before he takes me away in a grand manner, Zhu Huayan sighed. Yichu had already led her to a restaurant and sat her down, casually ordering a few specialty dishes from the menu. Looking at Zhu Huayan leaning on his shoulder, he said softly, "Maybe we don't have to wait until then. You know my soul skill, maybe if you gather the Zhu family together, I can empty them in no time." After Yichu finished speaking, he shook his head again. "Forget it, your Zhu family definitely won't agree. After all, the foundation built over generations is in the Douluo Empire, and the royal family and many women in your family aren't necessarily all on the side of the Zhu family. You know that's good." Zhu Huayan helplessly kissed Yichu's neck, inhaling his fragrance, gradually calming her emotions. HMPH. That damn royal family has been riding on our Zhu family for so many years. If I had the ability, I would make the tables turn and let the Dai family be ridden by my Zhu family for thousands of years. Zhu Huayan was utterly disgusted by the Zhu family's dependence on the royal family, which led to sisters killing each other in every generation. It seemed like they were just choosing a stronger breeding partner for the royal family. Hearing Zhu Huayan's words, Yichu chuckled, understanding her thoughts. He put his arm around her soft waist and gently promised, "I'll help you if I have the chance, okay, I've got it." "My ambitions are quite big," Zhu Huayan giggled, lying in Yichu's arms, and gently bit his chin. Yichu asked curiously, "How big?" "Half of the entire world. Just that piece of land in Xingluo would be quite nice, don't you think?" "Do you think I'm suitable to be empress?" Zhu Huayan playfully placed Yichu's hand under the black silk scarf covering her ample breasts, seemingly trying to entice her to say something sweet to coax her. But Yichu's reaction surprised her. She immediately replied, "I think Sisters Huayan is quite suitable to be empress, at least in terms of temperament, she's quite capable." "Haha, Xiao Chu, you have good taste. Consider this your reward," Zhu Huayan said. Yichu's hand was then drawn into that unfathomable depths. No one took this joke seriously. But little did they know that in the following years, the continent would undergo a dramatic transformation. Zhu Huayan did indeed become empress, albeit for a short time, but she brought down the Dai family, truly placing the Zhu family on top. Not long after, the food was served. While feeding Yichu, Zhu Huayan asked, "Speaking of the Soul Master competition, are you confident you can get first place?" "Xiao Chu, first place is our goal," Yichu smiled. He might not have had a specific goal before, but for the sake of the vast ocean universe cover, he had to secure first place without fail. "Is that so? Then it seems we'll be meeting again in Wuhan City soon." Zhu Huayan raised an eyebrow, eating the fish Yichu had deboned, not thinking he was exaggerating. Not only did she understand Yichu's strength, but he wasn't the type to boast. However, she was a little worried. She couldn't even fathom the strength of that lunatic, Davis. His soul skills had become completely unorthodox and drastically changed. She asked, "By the way, what's Zhu Qing's cultivation level now? Is she stronger than me?" Her older sister, Her strength should be stronger, but our cultivation levels are about the same, both at level 49, Yichu replied truthfully. Even faced with Zhu Huayan's alluring beauty sitting on him, he didn't lie to his conscience. Wishing everyone a happy life. Chapter 647 Davis is the second god. Zhu Huayan pouted. Xiao Chu, are you deliberately trying to provoke me? I only asked about Zhu Qing's cultivation level. What are you talking about strength for? Having fought with Zhu Huqing before, Zhu Huayan was already very clear about this. Haha, I was just saying it casually. Yichu chuckled awkwardly, realizing he really had to be careful with his words in front of the two sharp-tongued women. HMPH. But I should be breaking through to Soul King soon, then I'll definitely be in the lead again. Zhu Huayan snorted coldly, chewing on a fish bone, looking like a little wildcat vying for attention. Yichu just smiled and didn't say anything. Zhu Qing would probably reach Soul King later than Zhu Huayan. After all, there was a 6-year age difference. Originally, during the Soul Master competition, Zhu Huayan should have been 5 levels ahead of Zhu Huqing. But now, Zhu Huqing had consumed the immortal herb and gained some more sacrificial energy. She had become neck and neck with Zhu Huayan. But in the future, Zhu Huqing would definitely surpass Zhu Huayan. Zhu Huayan hadn't consumed the immortal herb, so her talent was naturally weaker, the difference being obvious. Xiao Chu, do you lack confidence in me? Zhu Huayan glared at Yichu. Yichu wiped his hands clean, put his arm around Zhu Huayan's waist, and said helplessly, Sisters Huayan, do you want to hear a lie or the truth? Then you'd better not speak. Zhu Huayan snorted coldly, regretfully saying, Sometimes. I really wish I could switch identities with Zhu Qing. If I were the younger sister, I would have won you over long ago. Zhu Qing is really lucky. Yichu remained silent, picked up his chopsticks, and stuffed fish into Zhu Huayan's mouth. By the way, I wanted to remind you, that guy Davis has become very dangerous. I no longer know what his cultivation level is. Zhu Huayan's expression became serious. That lunatic basically doesn't train with us. He seems to disdain the Soul Master competition. Yes, I'll take it seriously, Yichu nodded. Connecting this to what Zhu Huayan had told him about Davis's several abnormal states, he had a premonition. Perhaps the second deity possessed by those evil Soul Masters resides in Davis. Strangely, Davis's talent shouldn't be outstanding. Yichu didn't understand. What did they mean by choosing Davis as their successor? What did they want from him? Was it his status as the first prince of the empire? Could they use him to control the entire empire? But even so, there was no need to choose someone with low talent as their successor. They could have done what Zizu and his group did with Zhu Bang. What they needed was never a ruler, but merely a puppet. At noon, after accompanying Zhu Huayan on a sea voyage and taking a nap on the ship, Yichu, as usual, sought out Jin Ringsu to cultivate together. Faced with Yichu's needs, Jin Ringsu naturally wouldn't refuse, readily obliging. She herself wanted to become stronger as soon as possible, reaching the Soul Saint realm, so she could begin the angelic god trial she had been preparing for. You bastard. Have you found a new woman again? This is the first time I've smelled this scent on you. In the divine might space, Jin Ringsu, nestled in Yichu's arms, suddenly changed her expression and became aggressive, grabbing Yichu's collar. Wait, Yichu raised his hand and explained, Zuir, you should know that this is Zhu Qing's sister's scent on me, right? HMPH. So what if I know? Does knowing mean I can't be angry? Jin Ringsu snorted coldly and released Yichu's collar. Of course not. If Zuir is angry with me, it must be because she's jealous. I'm actually quite happy about it. Yichu hugged Jin Ringsu's waist and gently comforted her. How shameless, Jin Ringsu pouted, but the corners of her mouth slightly curled up. She was quite pleased with Yichu's words, which satisfied her desire to be on top. Isn't it a bit inappropriate to say that? Yichu rolled his eyes and gently stroked Jin Ringsu's high, delicate nose. What's wrong with it? You're shameless and I can't even say it? I'm shameless myself. Jin Ringsu nestled into Yichu's arms, hugging him tightly. Yichu paused, then hugged the little angel in his arms tighter, kissing her golden hair, and said softly, Zuir, it's good that you say that. It's all my fault, I didn't expect you to know what I was talking about. A hint of warmth lingered in Jin Ringsu's eyes, but she wouldn't let Yichu see it. She was indeed shameless to be with a womanizer like Yichu. But Jin Ringsu smiled gently and bit Yichu's shoulder. There's nothing I can't say. This way we seem more compatible. Besides, my man can't be so shameless. I won't say it anymore, it's just degrading myself, it's okay, it's just something we talk about. Nobody else knows. Yichu smiled and shook his head, nuzzling Jinriksu. That still won't do, Jinriksu firmly refused. What if you take this seriously and kick me away or trample on my dignity in various ways on the bed? There are some things I won't do. As she spoke, Jinriksu's voice couldn't help but carry a hint of shyness. You're the same. The chances of you kicking me away are slim, but it's different if I kick you. HMPH, if I can beat you, I'll enjoy you all to myself. When I get tired of you, I'll kick you away. And give you back to those old women who can't get any older, whose skin is all loose and sagging. Yichu smiled helplessly. It seemed that Jinriksu was still thinking that one day, if she had the ability, she could imprison him and slowly devour him, every day. This could be considered a kind of obsession. Thinking of the angel god's test, Yichu couldn't help but remind her, Zuir, sometimes it's best to put aside these kinds of thoughts. Jinriksu knew what Yichu was talking about and said angrily, why? Can't I even think about it? Of course not. Yichu shook his head and could only attribute some of the things he knew to the angel god. The angel god told me that there's a test similar to an illusion during the divine examination. What if you get caught up in it and it damages your divine position? HMPH. Anyone who dares touch me, I'll kill them. Jinriksu naturally understood Yichu's meaning and couldn't help but let out a heavy snort. Her body had only been touched by Yichu, and only by him. Holding Yichu's face in her hands, she said seriously, you can rest assured about that. Even if you turn to ashes, I'll still recognize you. If there's even the slightest thing wrong with you, I'll sense it. That's for the best. Yichu smiled, not doubting Jinriksu's words. With her reminder, he figured the divine examination would be fine. Suddenly, Jinriksu stepped on Yichu's toes, staring intently at him, sniffing him, and teasingly said, Yichu, I noticed, were you jealous just now, wishing everyone a happy life? Chapter 648 The Cat Floating in the Bath. Jealous? Yichu paused slightly, raised an eyebrow, and stammered, I just feel a little uncomfortable. It shouldn't count as jealousy, right? Not jealous? HMPH. You clearly are. Jinriksu snorted coldly, her deep, golden eyes filled with a bright smile. She stretched out her slender, jade-like finger and poked Yichu's chest. She teased, I didn't expect you to be jealous even of something that hasn't happened yet, something in an illusion. I never knew someone like you could be so domineering. Seeing her playful expression, Yichu grabbed her soft hand and hugged her tightly in his arms, as if trying to merge her into his very bones. He said helplessly, maybe it's just possessiveness. So what do you think I should think and do? It's fine as it is. Jinriksu looked up at Yichu, stood on tiptoe, hugged Yichu's neck, and brought her lips to his. Their lips met, and she parted her red lips slightly. This possessiveness feels quite nice to me, keep it up. Jinriksu then kissed Yichu's lips. Today she realized what it felt like to see someone she liked jealous. Even though the sourness came inexplicably, she enjoyed it. It wasn't sour, but rather sweet, the feeling of being cared for and valued. Arriving at a blue-silver forest, Jinriksu nestled on Yichu's back, rubbing her cheek against his ear. She asked with a smile, speaking of which, when you see me jealous, do you feel good too? No. Yichu shook his head, supporting Jinriksu's legs wrapped around his waist, and slowly sat down on the grass. Jinriksu seemed dissatisfied with his answer, her brows furrowed. Why? Because it's understandable that you feel uncomfortable seeing me like this. I don't need to be happy about something I didn't do well. I should do better. Yichu smiled and turned to meet Jinriksu's gaze. Jinriksu's face flushed slightly. She turned her head away, leaned on Yichu's shoulder, and pouted. Yet, you've got so many people jealous of you, but, actually, you've done very well. Jinriksu turned back, letting out a silent murmur. Looking at Yichu's face, which was much more mature than when they first met, she reached out and gently pinched and kissed him. Alright, let's start cultivating. The preliminary rounds will start soon, and I'll be watching you closely. Yichu nodded, grasped Jinriksu's shapely buttocks, and pulled her to sit in front of him, facing him in his lap. In the martial soul fusion technique, within the golden red consciousness space, Jinriksu and Yichu were almost telepathically connected. What they were thinking could be seen clearly by anyone willing to peer into their hearts. However, Yichu didn't do that. And Jinriksu, perhaps in the past, would have wanted to know everything about Yichu and tried to control him, but now, she wouldn't. What she wanted was for Yichu to tell her voluntarily. It was something he wanted to do, but it was ultimately lacking. During this time, Yichu also told Jinriksu all his guesses about Davis. That night, Yichu is still tempted. He was tricked by Zhu's Huayan into the bath filled with flower petals. In the secret room, only Yichu was alone by the edge of the bath, soaking in hot water. His head was tilted back, leaning against the edge, his face covered with a damp towel, which, upon closer inspection, seemed to be lace. Soaking in the bath, with what seemed like white lotus roots wrapped around his waist and milky waves rippling between his legs, Yichu's strong body, soaking in the hot water, felt as if he were in a warm spring. Glug glug. Bubbles rose from the surface of the water in front of him, the bubbles becoming finer and finer. As if something had broken. It made Yichu feel as if he were in a swirling, suction-like eddy in the water, with stirring and endless warmth. The steaming hot water seemed to relax all the muscles in Yichu's body. He soaked for half an hour. Yichu's tense legs suddenly went limp, her body cells relaxing as a warm current surged into her abdomen, accompanied by a tingling sensation coursing through her entire body. All her fatigue was released and relaxed in this moment, amidst the rising steam. She felt a gentle, spring-like feeling depart. Yichu raised her hand to cover the lace on her face, squinted her eyes, and exhaled a long breath. The next breath caused a splash. The surface of the bath suddenly rippled, water spraying everywhere. The once calm bath instantly became lively. The petals in the water were quickly pushed aside. A beautiful figure suddenly appeared in the bath. Zhu's Huayan pressed her hands tightly against her delicate body, which was about to float, and breathed heavily. The petals on her body slowly slid off, revealing her snow-white skin, her half-exposed body a sight to behold. Warm water droplets continuously slid down her hair and face, dripping into the bath and creating ripples. With her lips slightly parted, Zhu's Huayan quickly tilted her head back and swam towards the shore. Her movements were elegant and swift, her voluptuous body seemingly able to float effortlessly on the surface, like a mermaid weaving through the water. On the shore, hot tea and hot milk had been prepared before her bath. Taking a hot bath, drinking hot milk, and going to bed early and waking up early in the evening were all good ways to make the skin more delicate, firm, and radiant. Zhu's Huayan picked up a cup of hot milk that had been prepared beforehand and drank it all in one gulp. The sweet milk soothed her throat and made her feel comfortable. Because she had soaked in the hot bath for too long, Zhu's Huayan's whole body was flushed, like a ripe apple. She wiped her lips, her red lips slightly pursed, and her gaze turned to Yichu leaning against a pool. Her eyes revealed a hint of shyness and anticipation, as if they were telling a story. Her neat short hair, after being soaked in water, appeared even softer and smoother, like black silk woven across her face, adding a touch of allure. Yichu pulled the towel off his face, his azure eyes somewhat vacant, devoid of desire. Even so, when he looked at Zhu's Huayan's graceful figure, Yichu's heart remained unsettled. Xiaochu, you've been soaking for too long, haven't you? Zhu's Huayan's expression was somewhat resentful, her voice slightly hoarse, her lips a little swollen, and her cheeks a little sore. I'm in good physical condition. Yichu helplessly touched his nose, which was still filled with a delicate fragrance. He was always like this. When he soaked with Liu Long, she would almost faint, but he was fine. PFFT, watching Yichu's heart pounding, Zhu's Huayan couldn't help but smile softly, a hint of understanding in her alluring eyes. No wonder Yichu's backyard hadn't caught fire. Zhu's Huayan picked up a cup of hot tea from the shore, causing ripples to spread across the water again, and slowly approached Yichu. Sitting in Yichu's lap, she used her delicate body as a table, placing the hot tea between the dish and feeding Yichu a steaming cup of warm tea, just as before. Wishing everyone a pleasant life. New book is currently free. Please continue reading. Thank you for your support. Chapter 649. Just feeling annoyed about losing an argument. Early in the morning, the space above Liu Erlong's courtyard at Lamba Academy rippled. Yichu's figure appeared on the rooftop, his face slightly flushed. Zhu's Huayan was incredibly seductive. Even for a simple nap, she had to use her fourth soul skill, Netherworld Shadow Clone. 6 clones, all naked, clung to Yichu's body, while Zhu's Huayan's true form, clad only in a thin veil, was alluringly alluring. Early in the morning, they were already playfully teasing their master like cats, some clinging to his arms, others to his legs, Human cushions, human blankets, their massive breasts making them softer and more delicate than the original bed. Seeing their bared fangs, Yichu reluctantly drank a few sips of spirit cat milk, washed his face, and didn't dare linger. If they bit him, the situation would be different from when he faced Zhu Xiuqing. Their paths were different. Zhu Huan could undoubtedly endure for far longer than Zhu Xiuqing. The price Yichu would have to pay to defeat them was far greater than simply giving them a warm bite each. Although Yichu possessed the Blue-Silver Emperor bloodline and had powerful regenerative abilities, it wasn't something to be taken lightly. If he hadn't run fast, he would have already been bitten by the 3 clones. Husband, Yichu's scalding breath had barely appeared when the beautiful snake woman, who was very sensitive to temperature changes, noticed his presence. Xiao Chu, as soon as Xiao Wu stepped out of the room, she seized the opportunity and quickly jumped onto the roof. Learning from Zhu Xiuqing's experience, she didn't dare to be too presumptuous. She quickly ran to Yichu's side, sat down, hugged his arm, and shared her joy with him. Husband, I've broken through level 50, then congratulations, Yan. Yichu, who had just been dazzled by the endless stream of white steamed buns in the early morning and was stimulated, felt a little distracted by Duguyan's soft body pressed against him. He couldn't help but cough twice. Ahem. Tomorrow, I'll take you to get your 5th spirit ring. Don't participate in the preliminaries yet, okay, whatever you say, husband. Duguyan blushed, teasingly looking at Yichu. She leaned close to Yichu's ear and whispered, speaking of which, is husband frustrated that he can only look but not touch? As she spoke, Duguyan's legs suddenly transformed into snake tails, coiling around Yichu's waist. They were slippery, cool and slippery, but Yichu only found them alluring. Yan, you know this and still tease me like this. Yichu rolled his eyes, reaching out to grab the slippery snake tail. The coolness turned to warmth, the coiled tail pressing against the heat, making Yichu grit his teeth. Ew, Duguyan couldn't help but groan as Yichu grasped her snake body. But she didn't let go. Instead, she hugged Yichu tighter and tighter, enduring the caresses of his large hands. Husband Yan didn't mean to tease you, I just wanted to tell you, Duguyan said, biting her red lips, her face shy and beautiful, her voice soft and sweet, when it's my turn to keep you company tomorrow, please don't be shy and enjoy yourself. Hearing this, Yichu's pupils dilated slightly. Although he was entangled by the snake's tail, his arrogance only grew stronger. He struggled to create a 3-finger width gap between Duguyan's tightly coiled, overlapping snake tail. Suddenly, various footsteps sounded on the roof. Duguyan suddenly cried out, wrapping herself tightly around Yichu with all her might, her face flushed red, her eyes shimmering with tears. Yichu's breath caught in his throat. He felt wisps of moisture seeping from the slippery snake tail. Looking up, he saw Ningrong, who had been carried up by Zhu Xiuqing, holding the tip of Duguyan's snake tail in her hand. In her martial soul possession state, Duguyan's tail was pointed, all was lifting off the ground even when she was walking. Even Yichu rarely touched it. This was because if he did, the snake would become limp and wet, losing its vitality and preventing him from fully enjoying himself. Although Ningrong and the others wouldn't provide the same sensation Yichu gave Duguyan, she was still forced to endure the spasms of her body after being ambushed. She turned around, somewhat embarrassed and annoyed. Ningrong, what are you doing, HMPH? I was just touching it to see what it felt like. Ningrong snorted coldly, releasing the tail and glaring at Yichu. Just a cold-blooded animal with scales and armor. Why act so smug? It's nothing special, HMPH. Miss Ning, if you want to touch it, why now? Duguyan snorted, her snake tail transforming back into legs, now lying horizontally in Yichu's arms. I'm willing, Ningrong said, hands on her hips, neck stiff, defiant. Me too. Duguyan regained her composure, her slender waist swaying, her fiery body rubbing against Yichu's chest. A smile flickered across her face, her still sharp vertical pupils giving her a strangely alluring beauty. If I have time, I'd also like to exchange ideas with Miss Ning on how to better utilize my figure to serve my husband, Duguyan sneered disdainfully, then twisted against Yichu, seemingly demonstrating for Ningrong. Ah! You stinking woman, Ningrong erupted in fury. Even though she now had a pair of 13+ breasts, she still paled in comparison to her other sisters. If they were lying down and ranked by height, she would be at the bottom. Ningrong looked around and saw Liu Erlong and Bai Chengxiang snickering. Even Zhu Xiuqing beside her couldn't help but laugh, and Xiao Wu and Xiao Lan, needless to say, had already turned their backs and burst into laughter. Her face was flushed. With no one to help, she was about to take matters into her own hands and tear Du Guyan apart. Ahem, alright, wrong, stop fooling around. Yichu coughed twice, put Du Guyan aside, smiled helplessly, and hugged the rushing Ning Rongrong. Yichu, you're still laughing, Ning Rongrong gritted her teeth. Of course, she wouldn't actually fight Du Guyan. As a support-type soul master, even without using her soul power, she couldn't defeat Du Guyan. She also knew she had provoked her first. Instead of causing trouble for Du Guyan, she started complaining about Yichu. Should I cry instead of laughing? Yichu cupped the young lady's face and roughly rubbed it a couple of times. Alright, we've made jokes like this before. Why are you taking it so seriously, HMPH? I don't care about these kinds of jokes, I just lost an argument and I'm annoyed. Ning Rongrong pouted, slapped away Yichu's hand that was playing with her, and glared fiercely at Du Guyan. PFFT Du Guyan chuckled, silently straightening her clothes. Wishing everyone a happy life? Chapter 650. I'll give her whatever she gives me. It was morning. Yichu once again escaped the turbulent waves, his clothes left behind amidst the nibbling and sucking of the wild cats. Reaching his room, Yichu touched his wet face, shaking his head helplessly. Zhu Huayan was simply too enthusiastic. Looking down, he saw his entire body covered in irregular red marks, glistening in the morning light, all bites from the 7 cats. If Yichu hadn't woken up in time and run fast, Zhu Huayan might have commanded her clone to sit on him, doing the bizarre thing of the clone being deflowered before the real body. Yichu strode confidently into the bathroom, quickly rinsing off the remaining moisture and drying himself. He dressed rapidly, healing all his wounds. Knock, knock. A knock sounded at the door. Liu Erlong's gentle voice reached Yichu's ears. Husband, Erlong, it's me. Yichu walked towards the door, drying his hair as he did so. He opened the door. Xiao Wu and the others were already sitting on the roof, ready to cultivate. Liu Erlong was accompanied by Zhu Xiuqing and Du Guyan. Having just emerged from the bath, Yichu's appearance seemed to have a refreshing filter in Liu Erlong's eyes. It was easy for her heart to flutter. Her beautiful face flushed. Husband, why did you come back to take a bath so early in the morning? I sweated a bit. Yichu waved his hand, smiling sheepishly. It doesn't seem like that's the reason. Zhu Xiuqing looked Yichu up and down, and couldn't help but secretly spit at his pert figure. PFFT haha. Du Guyan swayed her slender waist, giggling. Her face was lightly made up, she wore a green slit cheongsam, and her long purple-green hair was casually tied up like a fluffy foxtail. She had obviously dressed up carefully. She chuckled, having some guesses about why Yichu chose to go straight back to the room. She stepped forward to hug Yichu's arm, her voice alluring. Husband, let's go, accompany me to cultivate. Yan, I'm not cultivating today. I have something to discuss with my husband. Zhu Xiuqing quickly pulled Du Guyan back, discussing it with her. Xiuqing, you're not going to fall asleep again after just waking up, are you? Du Guyan looked at Zhu Xiuqing in surprise, unable to resist touching her forehead. Generally speaking, after only 2 days, having been utterly defeated and lying in bed for half a day, Zhu Xiuqing wouldn't be so eager for sex again so quickly. Even with Liu Erlong, she wouldn't dare to keep pestering him. Otherwise, being played with several times in a row would not only damage her body but also her mind, making her strange and unable to resist carnal desires. Yan, what nonsense are you talking about? I have some serious business to discuss with my husband. Zhu Xiuqing blushed, giving Yichu a reproachful glare. Yichu shrugged, puzzled. Was he an innocent bystander caught in the crossfire? Haha, okay, I was just kidding. You can have it then. Du Guyan covered her red lips and pinched the cat in front of her. Yan, Zhu Xiuqing hugged herself, her eyes filled with wariness. Du Guyan smiled and kissed Yichu, then took Liu Erlong's hand and left. Turning back, she reminded him, husband, will have breakfast at home later. Okay, I know. Yichu nodded. He led Zhu Xiuqing into the room. The two sat at the table. Zhu Xiuqing poured hot tea and softly reminded him, husband, you should remember what I said, right? Of course I remember. Yichu was slightly taken aback. He had thought Zhu Xiuqing was joking. He hadn't expected her to actually tell him. Then tell me, husband, what exactly did she do to you? Zhu Xiuqing lowered her eyes. She still felt awkward about inquiring about her husband's affair with her sister. Well, Yichu smiled awkwardly, hesitated for a moment, and stammered, actually, it's nothing much, just that I got bitten a few times, and, you know your sister's bathtub, right? It's very big and deep, and sister's Huayan, right, she's a great diver. Describing this kind of thing was a bit difficult for Yichu, since he rarely sought out anything new. Generally, he just went along with them. If they wanted to do something, Yichu would cooperate. At most, it would just take a little more effort and energy, without needing to use his brain. Unless they really angered him. Then he'd get carried away and want Liu Erlong to fly, or Zhu's Huking to hang from the ceiling or something like that. Zhu's Huking was also confused, but that didn't stop her from blushing. Because just from these few keywords, she could foresee that Zhu's Huayan's methods and techniques were not simple. Very not simple. Seeing that Zhu's Huking didn't understand, Yichu rephrased. Well, basically I was taking a bath, and then your sister held her breath and went diving, with 2 floats on her, and she even bit me. After hearing Yichu's description, Zhu's Huking finally understood, her face turning bright red. So, she almost got full in the water. That's roughly it. Yichu rubbed his nose. It wasn't really a big deal, mainly because Zhu's Huayan was so soft. Those 2 breasts, even slightly squeezed together, were a paradise, not to mention the cat's biting and the addition of hot water, making them even more gentle and tender. HMPH, Zhu's Huking gritted her teeth and snorted coldly. Zhuking, are you alright? Yichu looked at Zhu's Huking, her shy and conflicted expression bewildered. Husband. Zhuking said that whatever she gives, I'll give, Zhu's Huking insisted, her neck stiff. No. Zhuking, forget it, we don't even have a pool here. Yichu waved his hand. This kind of competition was unacceptable. If Zhu's Huking found out that the 7 cat demons had opened their mouths wide in the morning, trying to suck him dry, would Zhu's Huking have to replicate that? Those were 7 mouths to feed, how much effort would he have to expend to control them? It wasn't like playing Russian roulette, where each one could just fire a shot. No, Zhu's Huking gritted her teeth, pursed her red lips, and looked at the steaming tea on the table. This should be enough, right, Zhuking? A hint of surprise flashed in Yichu's eyes. Zhu's Huking picked up the hot tea from the table and poured it all into her mouth. Head tilted back, lips open, wisps of steam slowly rising from them. Yichu understood, his heart pounding faster. Zhu's Huking seemed to be adjusting her breathing, taking a deep breath, quickly closing her red lips, puffing out her cheeks, and giving Yichu a shy look. He immediately moved the stool he was sitting on, lay down on the floor, crawled under the table, and disappeared from Yichu's sight. Yichu stared blankly at the steaming tea in front of him. The steam rose onto his face, and the hot tea seemed to envelop him, giving him warmth. Wishing everyone a pleasant life. New book, please follow. Multiple female leads, 3 female leads abused. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 651, A Strange Breakfast. How to put it. Yichu only saw a slender, graceful ghostly cat. Holding a ball, it pounced on him from under the table. It tore at his clothes and then lunged to bite him. Yichu could only reach out and cover the table with his palm, awkwardly rubbing the surface. Only when he couldn't bear it any longer would he grab the cat's head and shake it repeatedly, as if trying to make it let go. Outside, the purple aura in the sky slowly dissipated. Xiao Wu, Bai Chengxiang, and the other girls had finished their cultivation of the purple demon eye. They were sitting around the dining table in the courtyard preparing breakfast. Why isn't brother coming out yet? Xiaolan propped her chin up and stuffed a soft, chewy candy into her mouth. Is Zuquin going to sneak some again? Xiao Wu played with her braids, staring expectantly at the room where Yichu was. Probably not, otherwise why would Zuquin hold back from screaming? Du Yan shook her head and continued peeling corn in her hands. HMPH. Who says stealing food has to be done by that stinky guy? Can't it be like you are now? Ning Rongrong pouted and pointed at the corn in Du Yan's hand. Miss Rongrong, you? Du Yan's face flushed red. She held the corn in her hand, unsure whether to put it down or continue peeling. Liu Erlong and the other girls, who were also peeling corn, were also blushing and couldn't help but spit. Rongrong, what nonsense are you talking about? Liu Erlang glared at Ning Rongrong, looking at the corn cob in her hand. Although it was indeed similar, this was the breakfast. What are you doing? Hasn't anyone here eaten this before? Ning Rongrong blushed, fully displaying her true colors after transforming from a little witch to Fujoshi. Hearing this, everyone blushed and lowered their eyes. Even Xiao Lan understood. Henki Ushin, who was next to her, also thought of the imposing manner she had seen Xiao Lan on the boat last time, and her lips twitched slightly. She felt that she had been exposed to a lot of knowledge that she shouldn't be learning at her age while she was here. Wrong, stop talking, Yi Lingling, usually quiet and reserved, couldn't help but call out. If this continued, she might as well skip breakfast, otherwise, she'd feel uneasy. Bai Chengxiang, Jiangzhu, and the other girls were also glaring at Ning Rongrong. Although they didn't mind serving Yichu, Ning Rongrong's public display of affection was inappropriate. Why bring up other things when you should just eat? Why are you all glaring at me like that? Ning Rongrong felt a little guilty under the women's stares. She forced herself to say, why are you all reacting like that? You all wanted Xiao's carrots and Xiaolan's candied hawthorns. Ning Rongrong's words were suddenly interrupted. Even the mischievous rabbit Xiao couldn't take it anymore and shoved the peeled corn into Ning Rongrong's mouth. Rongrong, stop talking, she should just talk about corn. Why bring up her favorite carrots? Wasn't it Ning Rongrong who first asked for them? PFFT, haha. Seeing Ning Rongrong's mouth bulging and tears welling up, Du Yan couldn't help but retaliate. Miss Rongrong, is this how you eat it? AWW. Pop. Ning Rongrong angrily took out the corn and said coquettishly, You don't talk nonsense, let's not talk about this anymore, Yichu is already out. Bai Chengxiang pointed to Yichu's room. Liu Erlang and the other girls didn't say anything more and turned to look at Yichu. Jiangzhu picked up the steamer next to her. Everyone, put the corn in, I'll add water and put it on the stove. The tea that was originally meant for her brother had turned into milk tea. Zhu Huking swallowed and drank it all in one gulp. She followed behind Yichu with her red lips pursed, holding Yichu's hand, her eyes lowered, her face flushed. Brother, Xiao Chu, Yichu, husband. Hearing the women's greetings, Yichu smiled and nodded. Jiangzhu, carrying a pot full of corn, looked at Yichu staring at the pot, her face flushed, and she quickly ran into the kitchen with a furtive look. Dean, come and light the fire. Oh, coming. Liu Erlang gave up the idea of going up to compete with Xiao Wu and the others, and walked towards the kitchen. Yichu looked at Jiangzhu, Yi Lingling, and Zhu Henshin's furtive looks, completely bewildered. You weren't saying anything inappropriate again, were you? It's all Rongrong's fault. Xiao Wu was about to speak when Du Yan stepped forward and covered her mouth. What's past is past. Dinner is almost ready, so it's best not to think about it. Rongrong, Yichu looked at Ning Rongrong, not understanding what outrageous things she had said this time. Zhu Huking also looked up, curiously looking at her blushing sisters. Her face turned red because she had been holding hot tea in her mouth for too long, and the strong aroma of the milk tea had burned her throat. Meanwhile, they were all outside, perfectly fine. They didn't seem to have seen her squatting under the table. So why were they blushing? Zhu Huking couldn't help but glance at Ning Rongrong. She knew Ning Rongrong's boldness all too well. When Ning Rongrong learned of her eloquence, she had pestered her to teach her, making her blush furiously. Why are you all looking at me? I'm just stating the facts. Ning Rongrong dared not bring up the previous incident again, otherwise she would truly become a public nuisance. She didn't understand, Yichu wasn't around, so what was wrong with the sisters chatting about something a little risque? Why were they blushing over teapot bubbles? They were also prone to making assumptions. They were the most lewd. She only said she wouldn't think about it, but they actually thought about it. Humph. Alright, having just been pleased by the hot tea, Yichu was also beaming, her body feeling weak, and she didn't dwell on it. After all, this was a topic for the girls. He's a grown man, he shouldn't make do. Otherwise, it might be even more awkward. Brother Xiao Lan jumped towards Yichu, spreading her arms and legs in midair, then steadily coiling around and hanging on Yichu. Brother, Sister Rongrong just said, Xiao Lan. Don't tell, Ning Rongrong screamed, not letting Xiao Lan tell on her. Chatting with her sisters was fine, but she couldn't let her man know. Otherwise, if it happened too often, she would really become that kind of shameless woman in Yichu's eyes. Haha. Okay, Xiao Lan. Brother doesn't need to know everything. Yichu looked at Ningrongrong's blushing face, rubbed Xiaolan's head, and reassured her. HMPH, Ningrongrong stared at Yichu blankly and pouted. Haha. Duguyan put her hands on her hips and couldn't help but giggle. Little Lan, today's husband belongs to Sister Yan Yan, you know. It's okay if you get a little, but you have to save a spot for her. Right, yes. Little Lan couldn't hold on to brother's legs. PFFT. Little Lan's words elicited crisp laughter from the women. You little rascal, Little Lan, you've really learned bad habits from Miss. Duguyan was also somewhat embarrassed and annoyed, and couldn't help but step forward, coiling her snake tail around Yichu's back. After a bit of playful fighting, breakfast was quickly prepared. However, what puzzled Yichu was that today's breakfast was unusually different. Except for Little Lan, the other women ignored him. Holding their corn, they lowered their heads, blushed, and nibbled shyly. They occasionally cast reproachful glances at Ningrongrong. Clearly, they hadn't forgotten what had just happened. As for Zuziuking, she had just eaten, so she didn't have much of an appetite, and was also affected by their strange behavior, unable to help but overthink. If Yichu knew what they were thinking, he might just stand up on the spot. Wishing everyone a happy life, new book-seeking readers. Chapter 652. The Swamp in Sunset Forest. Watching the girls blush shyly as they finished eating their corn, Yichu, as usual, led them to the 7 treasure glazed tile school for cultivation. His divine might was incredibly convenient for traveling and visiting relatives. By noon, sunlight bathed every corner of Blue Tyrant Academy. Yichu decided to immediately take Duguyan on a soul hunting trip. He walked alongside Duguyan, strolling through Blue Tyrant Academy. Duguyan, arm in arm with Yichu, nestled beside him, watching the students come and go. Although they rarely showed their faces at Blue Tyrant Academy, their legends were now everywhere. The one most envied by countless men was, of course, Yichu. His female fans were ridiculously numerous. His striking appearance alone was like a magnet, attracting the gazes of many young women and girls. After participating in the Soul Master competition, his popularity soared. A casual stroll always drew gasps of amazement and envy. Naturally, his ability to attract attention also increased. Duguyan smiled and whispered in Yichu's ear, "Husband, do you think those girls would pounce on you if I wasn't by your side?" Her voice held a hint of playfulness and teasing. Maybe. Yichu smiled slightly. He was used to these gazes. Of course, as long as he didn't hear any strange girls making lewd jokes about him, it was fine. Haha. Husband really lacks confidence in himself. I think many of them want to devour you whole. Duguyan giggled, narrowing her eyes as she looked at the female students. Many of the female students would guiltily look away after meeting her gaze. But, they don't even dare to look me in the eye. Completely harmless and not sincere at all. Her words carried a hint of disdain. Yichu chuckled, they might not even have those kinds of thoughts. She nodded in agreement, then changed the subject. That's right, most people wouldn't dare come over. If they really got interested, even with a sister standing right next to you, they might still rush up and try to snatch her away, like that Xiao Wu. Yichu raised an eyebrow slightly upon hearing this. Thinking of Xiao Wu's troublesome nature, he couldn't help but feel a little helpless. But Duguyan didn't seem to intend to give up. She teased him with a mocking expression, "Husband, you'd better be careful." Yichu shook his head helplessly and said, "Alright, Yan Yan, let's talk about which soul beast you should choose for your 5th soul ring, shall we?" Duguyan nodded with a charming smile. "Let's just go straight to Sunset Forest," Yichu said seriously. "Grandpa already picked out the soul beast I need for my 5th soul ring when he had nothing to do. I'll take you there when we get there, is that so?" Sunset Forest, Yichu nodded slightly, pulling Duguyan along as they strolled through the academy, heading towards a less crowded area. "Husband, should we call Sister Erlong and the others? It'll be safer," Duguyan asked worriedly. "No need, the 2 of us are enough," Yichu shook his head. He felt his soul skills were better suited for dealing with larger creatures. After all, larger targets are easier to hit. "Alright then," Duguyan nodded slightly, quite confident in Yichu's safety. In the sun-drenched academy, 2 figures walking along the path twisted and vanished into thin air. Dugubo had been in Sunset Forest for many years. He was quite familiar with the distribution of some soul beasts, especially the slightly stronger ones. Duguyan's target for her 5th soul ring. It was a black whirlpool serpent over 38,000 years old, but that was a few years ago. If it hadn't died, that serpent would now be close to 40,000 years old, or roughly. Black whirlpool serpents prefer cold, damp places, practically living alongside swamps. Where there's a swamp, there isn't necessarily a black whirlpool serpent. But where there's a black whirlpool serpent, there will definitely be a swamp, because it can turn over the ground itself to create a suitable environment for itself. Black whirlpool serpents have no scales, their bodies resemble those of a salamander, possessing powerful regenerative abilities, and are covered with many small bumps that swirl like vortexes, hence the name black whirlpool serpent. Yichu, with Duguyan, first returned to the ice and fire yin-yang well. He rode on the lonely tiger girl. Then they headed towards their destination. With Yichu's X-ray vision, most dangers in the sunset forest could be avoided in advance. After about half an hour, Yichu and Duguyan arrived at their destination, a swamp in the forest, estimated to cover an area of over 30 meters in diameter. The swamp was quite conspicuous in the forest. Aside from a few still living trees in the surrounding area, further in, there was nothing but some grass, rotting wood, and corpses. The humidity was so high that the trees couldn't survive, and a layer of miasma, invisible to the naked eye, floated on them, emitting a foul stench. Husband, it should be that swamp ahead, Duguyan frowned, sitting on the tiger's back, leaning against Yichu's chest, her left hand lightly covering her mouth and nose, her right hand pointing ahead. I can see that snake. Yichu also frowned, complaining, it looks a bit creepy. At first glance, it doesn't even have eyes. I was prepared. In a place like this, what kind of beauty can you expect? Duguyan helplessly pursed her lips. Anyway, after killing it and turning it into a spirit ring, no one could see its appearance. As soon as she finished speaking, Duguyan took out 2 small pills from her spirit tool. Husband, if we eat this, we won't have to worry about the faint poison gas above the swamp. No need, I'm immune to all poisons. Give it to Tiger Girl. Yichu gently pushed her away. Alright then, Duguyan didn't insist, stroked the tiger's head, and tossed the small pill into Tiger Girl's mouth. Yichu lifted Duguyan off Tiger Girl. He instructed, Yan Yan, wait by my side and make your move later, but don't stray too far from me, okay? I know, use your soul skills as needed, I'm not afraid of poison. Then Yan Yan won't be polite. Duguyan smiled. Her azure phosphorus purple poison was very potent, but difficult to control. It sometimes couldn't distinguish friend from foe. Then let's begin. Yichu patted Tiger Girl beside him, letting her play by herself. Then he took Duguyan and rushed towards the swamp. Reaching the edge, the black vortex snakes in the swamp seemed to have sensed their prey approaching and were already making their movements. Third soul skill, blue silver ice and fire break, swish. As Yichu's voice faded, countless blue-silver emperor vines suddenly sprouted from the swamp. Wishing everyone a happy life. New book, please follow. Chapter 653 The Black Whirlpool Snake Covered in Small Snakes. PFFT, the blue-silver emperor vines darted and grew in the swamp, making strange noises. The black vortex snakes at the bottom of the swamp slowly spiraled upwards. Yan Yan, Yichu stopped, shielding Duguyan behind him. His eternal kaleidoscope flashed, and blood-red soul power slowly solidified around him. A complete ribcage protected Yichu and Duguyan. At the same time, the red and blue gold and blue silver emperor vines growing in the swamp suddenly sprouted many blue and red fruits. Explode! With a low shout from Yichu, the conflicting forces of extreme fire and extreme ice collided. Boom! PFFT, instantly, the swamp in front of Yichu and Duguyan exploded violently. Mud and filth flew everywhere. Fortunately, Yichu had activated his martial soul true body beforehand, otherwise he would have been covered in mud. Duguyan also frowned as she watched this scene. Just smelling she felt a little unwell, so she pressed herself closer to Yichu, inhaling the fragrance of her lover. Roar! A roar rang out. From the swirling mud, a hideous serpent several meters long suddenly parted the filth. Its eyes, black like the fleshy bumps on its body, held a cruel and bloodthirsty glint as it stared intently at Yichu and Duguyan. Yan Yan, be careful later, I know. After instructing Duguyan, Yichu immediately focused intently on the black vortex serpent that was about to attack him. Injured by the blue-silver ice fire, its body was covered with a thin layer of frost, clearly frostbitten. Visibly, its skin was peeling off, falling into the mud along with the frost. Then, somewhat unsettlingly, Wisps of black energy suddenly seeped from the fleshy bumps and small vortices on its body. Like a small snake, from a distance, its body resembled a hairy caterpillar. Crucially, these caterpillars could wriggle. In an instant, a new skin was woven onto its surface. But it wasn't over yet. The small snakes that emerged from the fleshy lumps didn't return. Instead, they grew out, and small black snakes began to emerge from its entire body. Its body continued to pull from the swamp. Judging by appearance, it was at least 17 or 18 meters long, with a body as thick as a water vat. It writhed across the muddy ground. Hiss, its mouth, filled with sharp teeth, hissed rapidly. Yichu could already smell the foul, fishy stench emanating from its breath. Yan, retreat. Yichu deactivated his martial soul true body and shouted. Douluo retreated without hesitation. At the same time, she didn't forget to spread a poisonous mist in front of Yichu. Third soul skill, azure phosphorus purple poison. Douluo's third soul ring flashed, and a concentrated purple ray attacked the black whirlpool serpent. The attack struck the mud beneath the black whirlpool serpent. In an instant, it began to spread, and the vibrant grass on the mud began to wither. Whoosh! Blue-silver entanglement. Yichu also used his blue-silver emperor martial soul to restrain it. Blue-silver emperor vines continuously grew, moving towards and controlling the black whirlpool serpent. Small snakes emerging from the black whirlpool serpent, carrying a corrosive quality, rushed towards the blue-silver emperor vines. Extreme flame. Yichu shouted inwardly, and the blue-silver emperor vines rapidly turned crimson. The small black snake seemed to evaporate, sizzling. But facing its enormous size and terrifying power, Yichu's blue-silver emperor remained in a stalemate. After all, it was a nearly 40,000-year-old soul beast. Fourth soul skill, azure phosphorus serpent emperor shadow. A several-meter-long, emerald-green azure phosphorus serpent emperor crashed into the black whirlpool serpent. Whoosh! The blue-silver emperor successfully entangled the black whirlpool serpent. Amaterasu. As Yichu retreated, the eternal kaleidoscope suddenly widened, a few drops of blood spreading along the lower edge of its eye sockets. Boom! Black flames instantly ignited the black whirlpool serpent. The flames spread rapidly across its body, the smaller black snakes proving futile. Roar! The black whirlpool serpent struggled violently. In an instant, the blue-silver emperor vine was freed. Stirred by the black whirlpool serpent, half the swamp became pitted and cratered, mud flying everywhere. Yan, leave the rest to me. You retreat a bit? Yichu glanced back and instructed Douluo. Husband, be careful. Douluo knew she didn't have any suitable methods against such a behemoth. She obediently retreated. Kokudo no Mikado. Under Yichu's control, the black flames continued to spread. Roar! The black whirlpool serpent roared deafeningly, instantly breaking free of the blue-silver emperor vine's restraints. It then burrowed directly into the swamp. A few drops of blood welled up in Yichu's eyes as he ignited flames all over the black whirlpool serpent's body. He saw the serpent's tail and unleashed another long-range divine might. Space twisted, the black tail contorted and burst, oozing black blood. While Yichu might not be able to wring off the black whirlpool serpent's massive body in a short time, he could easily handle its slender tail. Soon, half of the tail fell into the swamp. The black whirlpool serpent's body was completely submerged, roaring continuously. It disappeared from the ground. A few traces of black flame remained on the swamp. Yichu's gaze pierced through the mud, a hint of surprise flashing in his eyes. The black whirlpool serpent's regenerative abilities were truly remarkable. Even the Amaterasu flame had been dispelled. Whoosh! Sensing the movement beneath his feet, Yichu used ghostly shadow steps to retreat rapidly. Simultaneously, he waved his hand, unleashing a flurry of 1,000 birds' blades blazing with black flames. Poof! In just a few breaths, the spot where Yichu had been standing was turned into a swamp. Roar! The black whirlpool serpent emerged from it, spiraling upwards, crashing into the 1,000 needles. Its body was scorched by lightning and coated with black flames. Hissing, the small black snakes shed their skins. The black whirlpool serpent's pitch-black vertical pupils locked onto Yichu. Then, like a black pillar, it crashed down towards him. Large amounts of mud flew several meters into the air before falling back down, the entire area seemingly covered in mud. Douluo hurriedly ran to Hunyu's side, pinching her nose and dodging the black rain. Good timing, Yichu exclaimed in a deep voice. Looking at the pillar coiled with small black snakes, his eyes shone with an eerie, blood-red light. Martial soul true body, activated. Blood red soul power swept through, bones, muscles, and skin, in an instant. A blood red giant with half a body appeared on the open ground. It raised its hand. 3 connected crimson tomo spun continuously. Yosakani no Magadama, Yichu shouted. And with a flick of Wasusanu's giant arm, the 3 tomo flew towards the black whirlpool serpent's vital point. Wishing everyone a pleasant life. New book, please follow. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.